Chapter 1532. LoveLore stared at the approaching Kensei with an awkward expression. Her expression was getting heavier and heavier, and she had already guessed Kensei's intention. It's been a few years since we last met. You've grown up, Your Highness. On the surface, Kensei looked like he had just met an old friend, but his tone was as cold as ice. Are you planning to use my royal status? Things like angel imitation require royal blood as a medium. You've fallen, Kensei. LoveLore stared at Kensei Kanase with a piercing gaze that was extremely oppressive. Of course, this was ignoring her miserable appearance. If combined with her bleak appearance, she gave off the feeling of a dying monarch. Fallen. That's not right. Kensei shook his head. His calm expression was replaced by passion. Turning you into angels and returning to God's side, what kind of great feat is this? Using such a dirty word like fallen to describe my plan. It's blasphemy. You're crazy. LoveLore spat. At the same time, she blinked her beautiful eyes. Realizing the problem, she asked, You? Could it be that you found other mediums with royal blood? Could it be Canon Kanase? That's right. Kensei nodded. Then, he raised his eyebrows and said in a deep voice, but she ran into some trouble. My plan couldn't keep up with the changes. She was temporarily protected by someone called Dustless, so I didn't have a chance to act. Dustless. Hearing this, LoveLore had a strange expression. She lowered her head and thought for a moment. She didn't have this name in her mind, but she still felt grateful. If it wasn't for Dustless's protection, Canon Kanase would have been dismembered on the operating table. Kensei, you're indeed a lunatic. Taking a deep breath, LoveLore finally stood up and walked to the side of the spaceship. She looked at the blue sky and the endless sea. Her heart was very calm. Shut up, I don't have time to chat with you. Capture her, Lo. The blonde woman in leather ordered. She was the boss who hired Kensei Kanase, Beatrice Basler. She was said to be the descendant of the third ancestor. Hearing Beatrice Basler's order, her subordinates immediately nodded and approached LoveLore. You want to capture me alive? An undisguised sneer appeared on her face, and under the astonished gazes of several people, she actually jumped into the ocean without hesitation. Damn it! Kensei Kanase and Beatrice Basler both cursed. They didn't expect LoveLore to be so decisive and choose to commit suicide. She might not be dead yet. Get ready to search the sea. I think she'll end up on an island near Itagami Island. Kensei Yace's eyes lit up as he analyzed. Inside the apartment, the sound of running water could be heard. Dustless was lazily soaking in the water tank. He was tired from the battle with Vatler, so he planned to go to bed after washing up. Shuelai, where's that little girl called Canon? I remember asking you to invite her to your house. Suddenly, he remembered that there were only two people when he came back. One was Sayaka Huangban, and the other was Ji Zhuosheli. As for Kanase Canon, she was nowhere to be seen. Invitation? No way. Dustless, who was soaking in the bathtub, could only helplessly shake his head. Miss Huangban, you really can't do anything right. Dustless sighed in disappointment. That little girl is very important. Shuelai, when we go back to school, you must keep an eye on her. Senpai, why? Shuelai whispered outside the bathroom. Dustless was older than her, so she always called him senpai. Anyway, she's very important. I can't tell you why, but you must keep an eye on her. After all, you're classmates, so it's easy to keep an eye on her. I'm a man, so if I follow her, I'll be treated as a pervert. Dustless said gloomily. Hearing this, Sayaka Huangban, who was watching TV, curled her lips and said in a decisive tone. You're a man. Anyone who stays with you for a long time will get pregnant. You bastard. Dustless's mouth twitched. At the same time, he shouted angrily. The three of us have been living together for a while, right? Are you pregnant? Please don't spread rumors. Also, don't use the word pregnant in the future. People might misunderstand. During this period of time, Wu Qin had heard the word pregnant so many times that his ears had grown calluses. However, Huangban Sha Yahua was still very happy and kept shouting about it every day. Senpai, don't worry. I'll take good care of Canon. Shuelai promised. That's good. Hearing that, Wu Chen's hanging heart finally settled down. After wiping the water stains on his body, he changed into new pajamas. At the same time, he threw all the clothes into the washing machine. His eyes glanced at something that he shouldn't have seen, and embarrassment flashed across his face. They're really careless. Dustless bitterly smiled. Sayaka Huangban is really arrogant. She's wearing black. Knock knock knock. Just as he walked out of the bathroom and was about to go to bed, someone knocked on the door. Seriously, it's already midnight. Who's so bored? Is it not Suki Nangong? Helplessly, he went to open the door. Sayaka Huangban was a lazy person. She never opened the door for guests. Ji Zhua and Shuelai also went to bed early. Sayaka Huangban was the only one eating snacks and watching TV. Creak. The door was gently pushed open. An unexpected figure came into sight. Dustless was stunned. Chapter 1533. She has a head of curly blonde hair, a delicate face, even facial features. The places that are supposed to be protruding are not flat, and the places that are supposed to be raised are not sunken. You are Miss Blue Feather. After a moment of silence, Dustless embarrassedly scratched his head and showed an apologetic expression. My apologies, please come in. There is no need. I am the one who should apologize for the sudden visit. Thank you for saving me during the day. If not, I might have been killed by those terrorists. Blue Feather bowed to express her gratitude. Miss Lanyu, you're too polite. It's just a small matter. Besides, it's also my responsibility. Wu Qin shook his head. This was his task. After all, he was now a member of the Special Regions Police Force. Even so, but, at this point, Blue Feather's tone became sluggish. Her face was filled with disappointment. Which girl doesn't yearn for love? They all hope that the person who saves them is their prince on a white horse. But, her Akatsuki Koju was trained by Dustless to be gay. Dustless couldn't help but feel happy. Thinking about this, he felt a sense of schadenfreude. No matter what, I sincerely thank you. Blue Feather apologized again and turned around to leave. Miss Blue Feather, it is already so late. How about I send you off? Dustless hurried to catch up with her. He worriedly said. It is late at night. There are a lot of criminals on Itagami Island. Miss Blue Feather faintly smiled. She reluctantly had a good impression of Dustless. But she still shook her head and refused. No need. I plan to stay at a friend's house today. Coincidentally, they also live in this apartment. Blue Feather pointed at a door not far away. Dustless's face immediately fell. There was clearly a Akatsuki character hanging there. Miss Blue Feather wants to stay at Akatsuki Koju's house. Dustless's face flashed with hesitation. He calmly instigated. Forgive me for being blunt, but Akatsuki Koju's reputation isn't that good. The news of him being a pervert and gay has spread like wildfire. I suggest that Miss Blue Feather doesn't stay at his house. I know. Blue Feather nodded dejectedly. How could gays have a good reputation? However, she still smiled and said, however, I still have to thank you for your concern. The two of us are close friends. It's fine. You know nothing. Dustless complained in his heart. Then, he said loudly, how about this? You stay at my place, and I'll stay at Koju's place. Such a good suggestion, Koju will definitely. Good my ass. Perhaps it was because he was too focused, but Xiao Guqing was already standing next to Dustless. When he heard that this guy was going to live in his house, Xiao Guqing couldn't remain calm. One had to understand that letting a hungry wolf into the house might not be a big deal, but Koju still had a beautiful little sister. You want to stay in my house? Maybe in your next life. Completely ignoring Dustless's existence, Koju and Azure Wing left side by side. Only Dustless was left staring blankly at the two's fading figures. Caw caw caw. Crackling sounds came from his fingers. Dustless's eyes flashed with fire. His originally tired sleepiness disappeared, leaving only a belly full of fire. Damn kid, you think I can't do anything to you? With a sneer, Dustless immediately had a suitable plan in his heart. He had too many means to teach Koju a lesson. You forced me to do this. Sneaking to Koju's door, Dustless spread out his observation hockey and found that Koju was doing homework, and his sister Nagisa was sleeping, and Azure Wing seemed to be taking off her clothes to take a bath. Hey, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Dustless had a strange smile on his face, and immediately found that Koju's door was locked. Kamui. Kacha. The space was torn by Dustless, and then he walked in. Strange, what was that sound just now? Could it be that someone came in? I remember the door was locked. Koju muttered in confusion. His companion had already come over. Boom. While Koju wasn't paying attention, he knocked him out with a karate chop. Ooh. Now I have to deal with Azure Wing. Dustless smiled evilly as he looked at the girl who was taking a bath. Boom. Without even bothering to hide, Dustless directly invaded the bathroom. His scarlet three-tomo Sharingan rotated as he stared at Asakonian blue feathers with his head held high. Who is it? Azure Wing was shocked and subconsciously looked over, and what she saw was Dustless. No, it was Koju. The one who came in was indeed Dustless, but he used an illusion to turn the Dustless that Azure Wing saw into Koju. Koju, get out of here. Azure Wing was ashamed and angry, and quickly used a bath towel to cover her private parts. Get out. Dustless sneered, how can I let such a good opportunity go? This time I must do you. You know what kind of person I am, and you still dare to come to my house, you have guts. Although the one who spoke was Dustless, because of the genjutsu, Azure Wing had an illusion that the Dustless in front of her was Koju. You. I treated you as a friend, and this is how you treat me. Asshole Blue Feather was furious. She picked up the shower gel and threw it at Koju. Child's play. Dustless leaned to the side and grabbed the towel, and then pounced on Azure Wing and grabbed her hands, and the bath towel fell. You bastard, Koju, are you crazy? Seeing that Koju staring blankly at her, Blue Feather was furious. She hurled a torrent of abuse at him, but it was of no use. She couldn't stop anything. Chapter 1534. Dustless's gaze was extremely aggressive as he scanned Azure Wing from side to side. He would be an idiot if he didn't take advantage of the situation, not to mention the existence of Koju as a scapegoat. Her white skin was as smooth as a baby's. Wu Chen's eyes could see everything at a glance. Looking left and right, he was very happy. Only Blue Feather's flame kept rising and her face turned red. Get out of my way. Azure Wing didn't know where she got the strength from, but she pushed away the dazed Dustless and threw a change of clothes at him. Shoo shoo shoo. All kinds of clothes were thrown over, regardless of whether they should be thrown or not, all of them were thrown towards Wu Chen. Oh, no, towards Koju. Azure Wing was currently trapped by Dustless's illusion. In her eyes, Dustless was Koju. Die, you bastard. She picked up the showerhead and threw it at Dustless. She didn't show any mercy and it hit Dustless's head. Bang! This hit wasn't light at all and Koju immediately fainted. Shoo shoo shoo. Azure Wing took advantage of this short window of opportunity and turned into a gust of wind to escape. She immediately put on her pajamas and left Koju's house. She didn't expect him to be so shameless. Ouch! Dustless rubbed his forehead and was quite depressed. This was the life of a professional actor. Sometimes, he had to put himself in danger to succeed. Hurry up and drag the brat Koju here. Dustless chuckled and dragged Koju into the bathroom. He placed him where he fainted and then lazily left Koju's house. None of this has anything to do with me. With the mentality of being a bystander, Dustless left easily. Today, the common people are so happy. In the corridor, Wu-Chin was jumping up and down. He was in a good mood. However, when he just stepped into the door of his house, he heard the sound of sobbing. Who is so capable to make a tigress like Huangban Sha and Yuhua cry? Dustless shivered, but at the same time, he was also filled with curiosity. He stuck his head into Jijua Shelley's room and was stunned by what he saw. Woo woo woo. Gu Cheng, that bastard. To think that I trusted him so much. The sobbing voice filled with resentment towards Koju was shallow blue feathers. He gave off the impression that he couldn't wait to send Koju to hell. This is Shaggy Azure Wing. Dustless paused. He thought that Azure Wing would be so worried that she would run home, but who would have thought that Jijua Shelley and Hoban Sayaka would denounce Koju's crime? Hee hee. That's good too. Dustless shrugged, as if it had nothing to do with him. Although he was the one who violated Akatsuki Koju, because it was an illusion, Akatsuki Koju only saw a beast with a human face. Go to sleep. Dustless leisurely laid on the soft bed. Just as he was about to rest, the sound of the door being knocked was heard. Dustless, if you're not dead, get up. Huangban Sha yelled with all her might, and the sound of the door creaking could be heard. Might as well just tear down the door in the future. It's unnecessary anyway. Dustless crawled out of the warm bed. If he didn't get up now, the door would be forcefully torn down by Huangban Sha. What's the matter? After opening the door, Wu-Chin saw Sayaka Huangban, Asakani Blue Feather, and Jijua Shelley. His face was filled with confusion, and his eyelids were half closed, as if he had just been woken up from a sweet dream. Aren't you in the Special Region Security Force? Now you want to catch a pervert. That's your fault, right? Huangban Sayaka said angrily, Koju, that scum violated Asakani Azure Wing. Hearing that, Dustless was petrified on the spot. He looked at the trio speechlessly and thought, I only took a few glances, it's not as exaggerated as you say. Anyway, let's go ask that kid first. Dustless was naturally happy to see someone looking for trouble with Akatsuki Koju, especially Azure Wing. Damn it, why am I still in the bathroom when I fainted? Akatsuki Koju opened his eyes and looked at all this with a confused expression. At the same time, he found himself tied up. His limbs were tightly bound, and there were 4 figures standing in front of him. Akatsuki Koju, I'm arresting you for attempted rape. There are witnesses and evidence, plead guilty. Dustless stared at Akatsuki Koju with a smile. His words made him vomit blood. Who attempted rape? I'm warning you, don't slander me. Akatsuki Koju's face turned green. Every time he met Dustless, he would encounter this kind of inexplicable misfortune. I didn't do anything. However, Dustless ignored his rebuttal. The Special Region Security Force was already waiting outside the door. They directly took Akatsuki Koju away. No matter how much he yelled, it was useless. Akatsuki Koju would do such a thing. Natsuki Nangong had a strange expression. She looked at Dushless suspiciously. She didn't believe that Akatsuki Koju would do such an outrageous thing. If you don't believe me, you can ask Miss Azurewing. Dustless shrugged and pointed at Azurewing. His expression immediately became serious. Forget it, I don't have time to listen to your explanation. I'll look for trouble with Akatsuki Koju later. Natsuki Nangong clearly had other important matters to attend to. She didn't bother with Akatsuki Koju and took out a few photos for Dustless. She solemnly said, "This kind of thing is very dangerous. If you meet her, try to catch her." Dustless stared for a while and frowned. Isn't this Kensei's angel replica? Could it be that he's already plotting against Shingon? Looking at the time, it should have been created recently. Chapter 1535. The monster in the photo was not wearing any clothes, only a simple yellow bandage wrapped around her body. She wore a cold mask and her eyes were as sharp as knives. Just looking at her in the photo was enough to make one feel a sense of oppression, let alone seeing this monster in person. This monster also had a pair of transparent wings. But this should have nothing to do with me. Dustless shook his head and muttered, "If I remember correctly, tomorrow is a holiday. I refuse to carry out any mission, no matter what it is." You. Natsuki's delicate face twitched. She was depressed. Every time she spoke to Dustless, she felt extremely pained. Civil servants do not have holidays or weekends. Nonsense. Dustless curled his lips and exposed Natsuki. In short, I refuse to carry out any mission. I need to adjust my mood during the weekend. You are still depressed. Hearing this, Natsuki's expression changed. She couldn't help but sympathize with Koju. This guy was bullied by Dustless every day, and every few days, he would be sent to the Special Region's garrison to drink tea. Natsuki even suspected that Koju might be suffering from depression. And now, the main culprit was complaining that he was depressed. Natsuki finally understood what it meant to have a face thicker than a city wall. How about this? Natsuki's eyes turned and she suddenly chuckled. How about we go on a date and watch fireworks tomorrow? Date? Dustless did not show much interest. He knew what Natsuki was planning. She would probably use the date as an excuse to bring him to the scene of the accident. You want to go on a date? Sure, but I have a condition. Dustless looked at Natsuki with a smile. Inside, he was laughing. You can be shameless, but why can't I? I asked you to go on a date with me. You dare to talk about conditions with me? Natsuki stared at Dustless in shock. She felt that her brain was not enough to process this. This was the first time she had seen such a shameless man. A woman taking the initiative to go on a date with you should be happy. But Wu Chen's expression almost made Nangong Na Yu go berserk. Tell me about it first. Sighing, Natsuki decided to give in. It's actually very simple. I originally thought that Asteroidi was very good and planned to find her as a servant, but you snatched her away. So, my request is very casual. You just have to serve me tea for a day. Then, I will reluctantly agree to go on a date with you. Dustless still spoke with a tone of, I'm losing out. You should just die. The corner of Nangong Natu's mouth twitched, and her face was as black as coal. A purple magic array appeared behind her, and countless chains shot out. She was about to tie Dustless up and give him a good beating. It won't be too late to make a move after I say something. Dustless quietly stared at Natsuki as he said, Natsuki-chan, the date you mentioned is to make me work for you, right? I can handle this matter and give you a satisfactory answer. However, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Is it wrong for me to ask for some compensation? Moreover, my strength is no weaker than a true ancestor. If you become a servant for the first true ancestor, will he help you investigate the mission? Nangong Na Yu was speechless. Her delicate face flashed with embarrassment. She had planned to trick Wu Chen like this. Who would have thought that this brat would be more cunning than she imagined? He didn't fall into her trap. I promise you. Natsuki gritted her teeth and finally agreed to Dustless's condition. At least you know what's good for you. Dustless smiled proudly. After talking for so long, his throat was dry, so he said, "Go and get me a cup of water. Remember, it has to be 70% hot and 30% cold." Natsuki was furious. It's just a cup of hot water. That's more than I asked for. You brat! Dustless immediately turned into a black shadow and rushed over. Before she could turn around, he picked up Natsuki, lifted her skirt, and mercilessly slapped her butt. Remember, for the next 24 hours, you have to call me master. You dare to hit me? Natsuki was embarrassed and angry. If she remembered correctly, this was the second time she had been spanked by Dustless. If others knew, how was she going to survive in the future? She could not help but think of silencing him. Dustless saw the savagery in Natsuki's eyes and explained in a soft voice, "If you have some kind of unrealistic plan, I advise you to stop. You should know the difference between us." Hateful pervert. Hearing this, Nangong Natsuki's anger deflated. Her beautiful eyes dimmed a bit. She wanted nothing more than to hang Dustless up and beat him up to vent her anger, but she could not beat him. After all, even monsters like Koju and Vatler had been beaten up by Dustless. In the end, in this world, the strong were respected. In fact, for someone as powerful as Dustless, as long as they paid a small price, it was rare to find someone like him. This was already giving Nangong Na Yu face. Moreover, no one was an idiot. Was it possible to get something for nothing? It was like the relationship between an employer and an employee. If you did not pay someone, why would they work for you? In reality, it was the same. Remember, later you will have to wash my feet, scrub my back, cut my nails, and sleep with me. Forget about that. Natsuki was furious after hearing Dustless's ridiculous conditions. However, due to Dustless's strength, she could only hold her nose and endure it for now. If she were to break the contract now, it would be the same as Dustless spanking her but without paying any price. She could not pursue the matter as she was the one who broke the contract first. That would be a huge loss. Chapter 1536. Although she was extremely unhappy, Natsuki could only silently admit defeat. Who told Dustless to have such a big fist? She had no other choice. Just like what Dustless had said before, if she wanted to be a servant of a true ancestor, the other party would ignore her existence, let alone agree to Natsuki's conditions. Oh right, wait a moment. Dustless called out to Natsuki. He chuckled and said, "This is a good opportunity that cannot be missed. Hurry up and put on a maid's uniform." Hearing this, Natsuki's face darkened as she reprimanded, "Woo! Master, you, don't push your luck." When these words were spoken, Natsuki's face flushed red. She clearly wanted to teach Dustless a lesson, but her voice was soft and gentle as she spoke. Unfortunately, the word master was too embarrassing and Natsuki's courage faded away. "You're not going to wear it." Dustless raised his eyebrows and revealed a helpless expression that deserved a beating. Then about the date, "Fine, you win." "I agree." Natsuki could only sullenly compromise. It was not that she was incompetent, but that the enemy was too shameless. He did not have any bottom line and would use all sorts of despicable methods to achieve his goal. "Hurry up and change." Dustless waved his hand and lazily laid down on the bedding. He lazily swung his legs and hummed a pleasant tune. He was very happy. You really know how to enjoy yourself. A cold voice suddenly rang out. Dustless, who was lying down, was startled. This unfamiliar voice was filled with hostility and displeasure. He subconsciously raised his head and saw who it was. Xiao Nagisa. No, it should be Miss Aurora. Do you need something from me? Dustless lazily asked. This person was Aurora. Of course there's something. You have to fulfill the conditions you promised to revive me. Otherwise, I will tear down your house. Aurora's tone was filled with hostility and her cold voice was filled with threat. Hearing this, Dustless just looked at her quietly and decisively chose to ignore her. Aurora was loyal to Akatsuki Koju, and although the enmity between him and Akatsuki Koju wasn't as deep as the ocean, they were still like fire and water. After reviving Aurora, she would definitely help Akatsuki Koju deal with him. Do you think I'm an idiot? According to Koju's personality, you two will definitely take revenge on me after you revive. Dustless curled his lips and said disdainfully. So you're saying that you're going to refuse? Aurora's voice was bone-chilling, and even the room was covered in ice. I can't beat you, but what about your friends? What about Natsuki Nangong, Ji Shelley, and Sayaka Huangban? With a sneer, Aurora turned around and left. Just as she was about to leave Dustless's bedroom, she had no choice but to stop in her tracks. A pair of eyes that could freeze one's soul was coldly sizing up Aurora, and even her soul trembled. She wanted to leave this terrifying environment, but her body couldn't move at all. I hate people who threaten me the most in my life. If you dare to lay your hands on them, I can guarantee that in the next second, I'll cut Akatsuki Koju into pieces and feed him to the dogs. The voice full of killing intent didn't contain the slightest bit of emotion. In a trance, Aurora even saw illusions, and scenes of corpses drowning in a sea of blood appeared in her mind. This was absolutely not a joke. But the speaker doesn't mean it, but the listener does. Since you've threatened me, I'll at least teach you a lesson, so that you won't challenge my authority every day. The scarlet eyes turned, and a majestic spiritual power invaded Aurora's mind. Aurora's complexion suddenly changed, and she revealed a stunned look. She found that her four limbs weren't listening to her, and her feet were uncontrollably walking in front of Dustless. Her body didn't belong to her at all. What did you do to me? Aurora asked angrily. It's nothing. It's just a small illusion. Come, dance. Dustless stared at Aurora and smiled happily. Do I have to dance just because you want me to? I won't dance. Aurora stubbornly resisted, but it was useless. Her limbs weren't obedient at all, and she was manipulated by Dustless like a doll until she danced gracefully. Actually, if you want me to resurrect, you have to completely sever all ties with Akatsuki Koju. Dustless stated his conditions. Unless Aurora was wholeheartedly loyal to him, her resurrection would be delayed. Aurora remained silent after hearing those words, and allowed her limbs to be manipulated by Dustless as if she had accepted her fate. It was impossible for her to sever all ties with Akatsuki Koju. For the whole day, Dustless was messing with Aurora and Natsuki Nangong. Both of them were tortured badly by Dustless, especially Natsuki Nangong, who swore to make Dustless pay back 100-fold in the future. The next day, at dusk. Saihai Academy. Around dusk, the students left school and went home. Dustless was standing at the school gate. When Ji Zhua and Shelley finished school, he hurriedly waved his hand. Where's Kanase Natsuki? Dustless noticed that Shelley was the only one walking toward him. He looked left and right, but he couldn't find Kanase Natsuki. Kanase didn't come to school today. Shelley shook her head with a helpless expression. Maybe she's resting at home. Resting at home. Dustless frowned. Although Kanase Natsuki looked very weak and her body was weak, that was only on the surface. Her body was still in good condition. Small problems like a cold or a fever were nothing to her. Forget it. Let's go back first. I'll look for her tonight. Dustless, Jijua, and Shelley went home together. Wasaka Sayaka had been waiting for them at home for a long time. She had prepared dinner and was just waiting for Shelley and Dustless to come back. Of course, she was mainly waiting for Shelley. In Wasaka Sayaka's opinion, the Lion King organization's brain must be fried. They actually sent her to monitor Dustless. They were clearly pushing her into a fire pit. Talking to this kind of person would make her pregnant. I'll go out first. Enjoy your meal. Dustless had a date with Natsuki Nangong that night, so he left early after dinner. On the brightly lit street, there were boys and girls in kimono all around. There was a sea of people and he couldn't find anyone. Dustless could only call Natsuki Nangong to meet at another place. Really, there are so many people in the middle of the night. This island is really lively. In the desolate alley, Wu-chan ridiculed and said grumpily. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At the same time, two black figures descended from the sky and blocked Dustless's path of retreat. You too, Dustless looked at the two figures in front of him in a daze. He was familiar with the two people who came with ill intentions. One was Nangong Natsuki, and the other was Nangong Natsuki's servant, Astaruti. Is there something wrong? Natsuki Nangong frowned and looked around. There seemed to be nothing wrong. Cough 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 cough. You two are wearing kimonos. You give people a very special impression. Dustless coughed awkwardly and glanced at Natsuki Nangong a few more times. Natsuki Nangong usually wore gothic lowly outfits, and her aura was very strong. Today, she changed into a kimono. She was less domineering and more innocent. You're dressed very well. Dustless gave her a thumbs up. Astaruti did the same. The two's temperament was completely different from usual. Of course, I am very confident in my taste. Natsuki Nangong proudly raised her head. She then noticed Dustless's faint smile, but don't think that I will let you go just because I flatter you. You dare to make me your servant and call you master. I will remember this. Do as you wish. Dustless did not care. He was already prepared for Natsuki Nangong's revenge. But speaking of which, how is your investigation going? Are you sure it has something to do with Kensei Kanase and this mysterious incident? Natsuki Nangong asked expectantly. Dustless's investigation ability was very good. However, if she knew that Dustless was a transmigrator, she would not be surprised. She might even think that Dustless was wasting her time. Please don't doubt my ability. This matter is definitely related to Magus Plastic. This company hired Kanase's adoptive father, Kensei Kanase. They wanted to use his angel replica technology to develop war weapons and sell it for a good price to save the company from bankruptcy. Dustless explained as he walked, unfortunately, I was too late. For some reason, Kanase did not go to Saikai Academy today. How are things on your side? Hearing this, Natsuki felt depressed and said, I didn't find Kensei either. I even sent people to search the Magus Plastic Factory, but there was no one there. Were they tricked? Most likely, they have already sensed the danger and left. Dustless sighed disappointedly. Boom boom boom. A sharp sound pierced through the sky. A huge ball of fire appeared in the horizon. However, since the entire Itagami Island was filled with fireworks, no one noticed the fire. The loud sound was also covered by the fireworks. Who did this? Natsuki Nangong frowned. At this time, Dustless suddenly hugged Natsuki Nangong and Astaruti. Dustless is done molesting us. Instructor, should we attack? Astaruti asked Natsuki Nangong. Let go. Natsuki Nangong struggled violently. Her face was red and she looked cute. If you continue to struggle, the culprit might escape. Dustless said indifferently. At the same time, he teased, you have no breasts and no butt. Why would I molest you? Only someone with big breasts and big buttocks like Sayaka Huangban is suitable for you, you evil demon. Natsuki Nangong said fiercely. She pointed at the horizon and said, hurry up. If you are late, I will deduct your salary for this month. Vengeful woman. Dustless smiled bitterly. Just as he was about to fly over, something happened. Shio shio shio. Under the night sky, a wisp of purple cold light came head-on. A long whip full of thorns struck toward Dustless. You are courting death. Wu Chen's expression turned cold. Suddenly, a huge flash condensed under his feet. He immediately kicked out without hesitation. Lightspeed kick. Chapter 1537. Lightspeed kick. Aiming at the incoming cold light, Wu Chen mercilessly kicked out with his foot. Boom. 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 In the pitch-black sky, a huge golden light flashed. Suddenly, a huge flash of light swept across the pitch-black sky. Boom. Boom. Dustless kicked the incoming sharpness. That long whip-like weapon actually began to show signs of being burnt. Then, it completely collapsed and was annihilated. Who's there? A beautiful silhouette walked out from the darkness. Her blonde hair was exceptionally eye-catching. Her face was also quite beautiful. She exuded a mature aura. However, Dustless remained indifferent. Let me introduce myself. My name is Beatrice Basler. I'm also the secretary of Magus Craft. At the same time, I'm also the culprit behind your ambush. The blonde girl's thin lips opened slightly, and her smile was very flirtatious. You sure have guts. You dared to show yourself after ambushing us. Are all rats this bold these days? Public morals degenerate day by day. Wu Chen lowered his head and muttered to himself. Even though the beauty in front of him was quite pretty, he wasn't interested in her at all. You just showed us a murderous aura, right? Dustless looked straight into Beatrice Basler's crystal eyes and asked faintly with a blank expression. Ha! Isn't that obvious? I'm going to kill you all right here and now. I want to kill you all. How am I going to kill you idiots without killing intent? Beatrice Basler laughed sinisterly. Her twisted face was comparable to Vatler's. Dustless had seen her before. Where's Kanase Natsuya? Natsuki Minamiya asked coldly. If it wasn't for the fact that Natsuya's status was still unknown, she would have killed her already. Ha! Kensei Kanase has good foresight. He guessed that you all would target him. That's why he brought Kanase Natsuya away from Itagami Island. Beatrice Basler spoke with a smug look on her face. So you're saying that you're no longer of any value here and were abandoned? Dustless glanced at Beatrice Basler, and the coldness in his heart became more obvious. Is there a need for you to live if you have no value? I have no value. Bullshit. Beatrice Basler rudely interrupted Dustless and said coldly, I am still on Itagami Island in hopes of finding a suitable test subject. Akatsuki Koju, the fourth primogenitor, is being held captive by you, so you can only find me to test the power of your simulated angel. Dustless instantly saw through Beatrice Basler's mind as he turned into a flash of light and pounced over. Not bad. Beatrice Basler nodded calmly. Her intention was to use Dustless's strength to test the power of simulated angel. Creak. He lightly pressed the remote control in his hand, and two streams of light immediately rushed over. No matter how strong you are, the two of you won't be able to defeat me, Beatrice Basler said with a smile. She was extremely proud and arrogant. But in the next second, Beatrice Basler realized that she had made a huge mistake. Bang bang. Two loud noises echoed in the air. Then, they saw Dustless kick the two simulated angels away. Their abdomens were clearly caved in. How is this possible? Beatrice Basler's face was as if she had seen a ghost. 2 against 1, but they were still crushed. This was too much. She couldn't help but suspect that Kensei Kanase was a fake product. Tear him apart. Beatrice Basler pressed the remote control and ordered with a furious expression. AO 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 AO. As if they were trying out the greatest amount of pain, the two simulated angels let out hysterical roars from their throats. Then, countless eyes flashed on their wings, all of them preparing golden light bullets. If that's the case, there's no need to show mercy. Dustless calmly raised his thumb as he looked at the two simulated angels. A silver ball of light appeared at the tip of his thumb, crackling like lightning. Caw caw caw. A deafening explosion tore through the sky. A palm-sized energy ball appeared. This energy ball was extremely terrifying. The moment it appeared, the sky around it began to distort. What kind of joke is this? That kind of move can distort the sky. Beatrice Basler felt a chill in her heart. She stared at the blue energy ball in the sky, dumbfounded. Combined with Dustless's dead face, she could only see endless despair. Natsuki Nangong also stared at the ordinary-looking energy ball in shock. She didn't expect a ball to be so powerful. Go to hell, Wang Su's flash. He exhaled a breath of cold air. The silver ball of light between his fingers flew straight toward the two simulated angels in the sky. The destructive power tore apart the space in its path. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At the same time, the two simulated angels shot out golden light from their wings. Crack. There was no stalemate as expected. The moment the two collided, the huge power of Void Flash directly crushed the incoming light bullets and easily disintegrated them. Boom boom boom. A huge explosion rocked the sky. The dark night of Itagami Island was replaced by the silver light of Void Flash. The shockwave reached tens of kilometers in radius. If it wasn't for the fact that it was night, one would be shocked to see that the sky was replaced by a giant black hole. The two simulated angels were blasted to smithereens. Boring. Dustless, who was floating in the air, landed back on the ground. His eyes were filled with endless coldness. Since it wasn't canon, he didn't need to show mercy. Chapter 1538. Gulp. After the incident, only the sound of gulp could be heard. Natsuki Minamiya, Beatrice Basler, and the naturally airhead Asteroidi all looked up at the sky in shock. That black hole that was dozens of kilometers long was too terrifying. The sky recovered slightly, but the energy from Void Flash continued to tear it apart. Not only did the black hole not shrink, it actually grew bigger and bigger. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. It made everyone's heart jump. The power is just a so-so. Ever since I devoured the Spirit King, the Ryatsu in my body has reached an unlimited level. This is not even Void Flash with my full power, Dustless muttered to himself, completely ignoring the shocked Natsuki Minamiya and the others. I really don't know what these people think is so shocking. Dustless shook his head slightly. He was too lazy to explain. If these people knew that he had destroyed 5 or 6 worlds in a row and that the number of gods that died by his hand was more than 3 digits, they might feel that it was nothing special. Now, his calm gaze changed slightly and became cold again. He pointed his finger at Beatrice Basler. Dustless said bluntly, I already know where Kanase Cannon and the others are. There is no point in keeping you alive. As soon as he finished speaking, the tip of his thumb flashed with the same light as before. Is this bastard saying that he can use that move without limit? Beatrice Basler's heart collapsed. Damn it, didn't they say that the more powerful the move, the greater the side effect? Why doesn't this bastard feel uncomfortable at all? Don't kill me. Beatrice Basler hurriedly knelt and begged. She purposely opened her collar, revealing her huge white cleavage. She stared at Dustless with lustful eyes. As long as you let me go, I will take you to find Knace Cannon. I can also be your loyal servant, the kind that will do anything for you. Beatrice Basler's seductive eyes were like silk. Her meaning was self-evident. She had investigated Dustless before. This guy was definitely a pervert who could not move when he saw a beautiful woman. Beatrice Basler did not want to die, and she was confident in her appearance. She did not mind selling her body. Are you sure? Sure enough, Wu Chen's index finger was moved when he heard that. He stared at Beatrice Basler's delicate body with shining eyes, and he even licked his thin lips extremely exaggeratedly. He looked like a lecherous and wretched man who deserved a beating. Of course. Beatrice Basler watched as Dustless took the bait. She even saw how hard she was swaying her body. Her ferocious cleavage almost burst out of her leather jacket. She approached Dustless with extremely coquettish steps. This bastard really disappoints me. Seeing this, Nangong Natyue was furious. She looked at the lecherous Dustless. She didn't expect him to be such a despicable person. He couldn't get over this hurdle when he saw a beautiful woman. As the beauty approached, Dustless immediately smelled the strong fragrance of her body. His eyes immediately detected a strange color that was difficult to detect. Am I pretty? After getting close to Dustless, Beatrice Basler tried her best to show off her great cleavage. Her mouth circled around Dustless's smooth neck, and a strange light flashed in her eyes from time to time. Very pretty. Dustless gave her a thumbs up. Not only was she pretty, but she was also liked by men. Wasn't this the kind of woman that everyone desired? Then, Beatrice Basler smiled. She approached Dustless's neck and revealed her vampire fangs. Her gentle and flattering expression disappeared. Her face twisted as she roared, "Hurry up and give me your blood, boy." Poochie. After saying that, Beatrice Basler's fangs sank into Dustless's neck. This idiot. Seeing Dustless's blood being sucked, Nangong Natyue was furious. Dustless was so strong, so his blood might be a great tonic for vampires. After drinking it, her strength would increase exponentially. Caw caw caw. The sound of something shattering was suddenly heard. Beatrice Basler felt a sharp pain in her mouth. She was shocked to find that her vampire fangs had all shattered. She did not bite human skin. She bit into steel. No, Dustless's skin was dozens of times harder than steel. Your acting is really bad. Dustless rolled his eyes and glanced at Beatrice Basler, who was lying on his neck. He replied coldly, "You want to confuse me with a piece of trash like you? Are you a little too proud? You're just an ugly C*NT. It was undeniable that Beatrice Basler was not bad, but Dustless was already immune to beautiful women. There were countless beautiful women in the system world. So you're saying that you were acting just now? Beatrice Basler gritted her teeth and vomited blood. Especially when Dustless said that she was just an ugly C*NT, she was furious. Acting? That's right. I've been bored recently, so I don't mind playing with you for a while. Dustless's tone was calm. Then he grabbed Beatrice Basler's head with one hand and activated Rinnegan's eye power. It's already a great blessing for a small fry like you to be able to get close to me. So, as a token of gratitude, give me your memory. Dustless activated his Rinnegan. Beatrice Basler's memory was forcefully extracted by Dustless. She screamed in pain, but Dustless ignored her. After going through Beatrice Basler's memories, Dustless finally found the place where Kensei Kanase and Kanase settled down after leaving Itagami Island. Dai, Amaterasu. He glanced at Beatrice Basler, who was screaming in pain. After her memory was extracted, she was destined to live a painful life. Her mind was severely damaged, and she had turned into an idiot. It was better to send her to hell. Chapter 1539. Hysterical screams rang out incessantly, causing one's scalp to go numb and goosebumps to rise all over their bodies. Boom, boom, boom. The sky suddenly rumbled with deafening thunder, followed by a violent storm, accompanied by a fierce cold wind. Even some of the abandoned buildings creaked and looked like they were about to collapse. However, the black netherworld fire would never be extinguished. No matter what kind of wind and rain it faced, not only did it not show any signs of extinguishing, it even burned more and more fiercely, gradually devouring Beatrice Basler and ending her life, turning her into a pile of black charcoal. Natsuki Nangong slowly walked over. She stared at the charred beauty, her face completely unrecognizable. She then glanced at Dustless. Her indifferent gaze was like a block of ice, bone-chilling, unfeeling. Nangong Na Yu's pupils shrank. She couldn't help but feel a sense of fear in her heart. Although her sins are unforgivable, there is no need to kill her. Nangong Natsuki raised her eyebrows. Even if they encountered an enemy, the Special Administrative Region Police Force would mostly capture them alive. You want a reason? It's simple. Dustless glanced at Natsuki and simply explained, I cannot forgive someone who released killing intent towards me or someone I care about. No matter who it is, I will personally slaughter them. When a person released murderous intent towards himself or his friends, it meant that he had the intention to kill. Dustless had always advocated cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots when dealing with such people. Regardless of whether they were male or female, old or young, he would not let them off because they were destined to be enemies. Natsuki bitterly smiled as she heard this. She opened her mouth but decided to shut it in the end. Facing someone stronger than her, wanting to restrain him was simply wishful thinking. Have you found out where Kanon and Kensei are? If he really creates a large number of angels, it will be very troublesome. Natsuki Nangong said worriedly. Of course. Dustless nodded slightly. Then, he stared at the charred corpse and explained, I forcibly extracted her memory just now. After the deed is done, her mind will be severely damaged. It is very likely that she will become mentally ill. After all, she is a descendant of the third true ancestor, so I specially gave her a free ticket to the netherworld. Rather than becoming a lunatic who spouted crazy words, it would be better to die than to live a life of suffering. At the same time, on a barren island far away from Itagami Island, several large hovercrafts were parked on the surface of the sea, and mechanical humanoid machines were constantly running down from them. They were armed with all kinds of submachine guns and had already surrounded a silver-haired girl. Your Highness, it's just as I thought. You're not dead. Kensei Yase touched his glasses and revealed a wise expression. His face remained calm as he said, your body will definitely be made into the world's most perfect, simulated angel. Although Kensei Kanase remained calm, his trembling lips betrayed him. It wasn't hard to see that he was extremely excited and crazy at this moment. You lunatic. Lofreya Lihawain retorted stubbornly. Her eyes, like spring water, swept around and stared intently at the puppets that were slowly surrounding her. It's not like we have no chance of winning. Her delicate face relaxed slightly. Her eyes shone brightly, and a strong sense of confidence filled the depths of her eyes. Naive. Kensei Kanase, who has been staring at Lofreya, shook his head. Lofreya's resistance was within his expectations. Failure was also within his expectations. Bang bang bang. Bullets shot out from the curse-type gun and pierced through several mechanical humanoid machines. Although she managed to kill a batch of mechanical humanoid machines, another batch of mechanical humanoid machines came from all directions. LaFreya helplessly raised her gun and fired a few more shots. Bang bang bang. Soon, another batch of mechanical humanoid machines fell, but the effect was negligible. The number of mechanical humanoid machines seemed to be unlimited, but her bullets were limited. In just a few moments, LaFreya used up all her bullets. "Surrender, Your Highness," Kensei Kanase lightly said. A batch of mechanical humanoid machines rushed towards LaFreya. Boom boom boom. LaFreya's entire body suddenly emitted a resplendent golden light, and a brutal impact forced the attacking mechanical doll back. The curse-type spear in her hand shot out a golden light, which transformed into a golden sword of light that was over 10 meters long. "The daughter of the gods resides in my body, the protector of the army, the era of swords, the hand of death, will bring victory." As she finished chanting, the sword in her hand shone brighter and brighter, emitting a sharp aura that could cut through all obstacles. It carried a huge pressure, and those who were shone upon by the light would feel uncomfortable, as if their bones were stuck in their throats. How shocking! Kensei Yase was surprised. Isn't this a replica of the Holy Sword? By summoning a spirit into her body and creating a spirit furnace and using the Vendo system, the bayonet at the front of her curse-type gun was temporarily upgraded to the level of a holy sword. However, there was a time limit, right? And I'm sorry, but even so, you have no chance of winning. A strange smile appeared on his face as he gently pressed the remote control in his hand. Ah! A heart-wrenching roar instantly engulfed the entire island. This sharp cry contained boundless sorrow and desolation. Moreover, it penetrated into the depths of one's soul, causing one to be unable to resist. Even the radiance of LaFreya's holy sword had dimmed a lot, and cold sweat flowed down her back. Ha 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 ha, seeing LaFreya's sorry state, Kensei Kanase suddenly let out a savage laugh. This is how a lower life form ends up when encountering a higher life form. Not to mention a head-on battle, even the courage to resist. You won't even let go of your adopted daughter. How ugly. Chapter 1540. The sudden voice was filled with contempt, indifference, and mockery, completely unaffected by the ear-piercing howl. The calm voice did not waver at all. Kanase Cannon's frenzied howl could not harm him at all. Who is it? Kensei roared at the sky after a brief moment of absent-mindedness. The moment he raised his eyes, he noticed the figure floating in the air. He can fly. Kensei Yase was stunned as he looked at the thin figure standing in the sky in astonishment. His eyes widened and he couldn't hide his surprise. This was the first time he had seen someone flying without the help of any external force. Who is this? Kensei was not the only one who was shocked. Even LaFreya was staring at Dustless in confusion. Even though they were hundreds of meters apart, she could still see the indifference in his eyes. Facing Kanase Cannon, who had evolved into an angel, the mysterious figure's calm eyes did not waver at all. Instead, they were filled with contempt. He did not take her seriously at all. He stepped on the sky as if the whole world was beneath his feet. Even though he didn't really make a move, even though he didn't unleash his aura, just his calm temperament and his ability to stand in the air made others feel that he was far inferior. "Tell me your name," Kensei shouted. Even though he felt that the figure was familiar, he did not recognize him at first glance. "You don't deserve to know," the thin figure in the sky said calmly. Immediately, a warm glow appeared on his fingertips. It was like the sun, very gentle, but in the hands of this mysterious figure, it was extremely destructive and dangerous. Laser. A beam of light fell from the sky, heading straight for Kensei. The moment it fell, the light became dozens of times brighter. The light of the firefly turned into a sharp beam of light. Because it was too dazzling, people had to close their eyes. However, once people closed their eyes, how could they fight? Cannon, come and protect me. Under the cover of the light, Kensei sensed the shadow of death approaching and quickly pressed the remote control. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. An afterimage appeared in the blink of an eye, opening his arms to block the bright light. Ha ha ha. Kensei Yace cackled maniacally once more. Victory was already in his grasp. Cannon has now entered a higher realm. It's impossible for a human like you to attack her. But as soon as Kensei's voice fell, he was slapped in the face. Boom boom boom. The golden light hit Kanae's cannon head-on. Her body burst into flames as she fell to the ground. Cannon. Feeling nervous, LoveLore hurriedly ran over and hugged the unconscious Kanae's cannon in her arms. She glanced at the mysterious man with a hint of resentment in her eyes. I suppressed my power. She's not injured, she just fainted. Glancing at the unharmed cannon, the mysterious man said indifferently. This ability to use light. I remember now. You are that Dustless. After Dustless landed on the ground, Kensei's gaze remained fixed on him. After a while, he shouted, Why are you able to hit cannon of a higher dimension? This was illogical. She's an angel now, and she's in a higher dimension. To our world, she's already an illusory product. You don't even understand this. Dustless immediately labeled this guy as an idiot when he heard that. Then, he explained lazily, it's very simple. Because the dimension I'm in is higher than her, so I can attack her. Higher than Cannon's dimension. Hearing this, Kanae felt that his IQ had been underestimated. Kanae was an angel. What was a higher dimension than her? Wasn't that a god? Don't think that you've won now. You're still far from winning. Kensei's face contorted as he pressed the remote control again. Ao. Cannon, who had been knocked unconscious by Dustless, opened her eyes again. She opened her mouth and let out an earth-shattering roar that shook the entire island. Bang! LoveLore was also inevitably affected and was forced back dozens of meters. Due to the excessive force, her young body broke several coconut trees and was seriously injured. Blood was clearly flowing out of her wounds. You bastard! Looking at the miserable Kanae, Dustless's expression turned gloomy. His previously cold voice became hoarse and cruel. He had never seen such a perverted person like Kensei. Even a vicious tiger would not eat its own cubs. This bastard actually used Kanae as an experiment. Caw caw caw. Suddenly, the transparent wings on Kanae's back vibrated several times. Then, a mysterious pattern similar to an eye appeared. There were more than a dozen of them. Not only that, there was also a dangerous flash. Die, Dustless. Kensei pressed the remote control again. The wings trembled and the light that was brewing in the eye fell down. Dozens of curved golden lights blasted towards Dustless. Boring. Seeing this, Wuchen just shook his head in boredom. Then, a transparent sphere suddenly appeared around his body. Shinra Tensei. Bang! 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 The rays of light that rumbled over were all bounced away by the invisible repulsive force. Dustless was even safe and sound, without a single scratch on him. Boom boom boom. On the other hand, several hovercraft docked near the coast were blown away, setting off huge waves. Caught off guard, Kanae was splashed with water. The impact of the hovercraft's explosion was impossible to guard against. His body fell to the ground due to inertia, plunging into the sand. Game over. He stepped on Kensei's head. A bright light appeared under his foot. Even though the light was extremely hot, the deadly pressure made Kensei shiver and sweat profusely. Chapter 1541. In less than 10 minutes, Dustless had turned the tables on Kensei with his overwhelming strength. In the end, Kensei was the loser. Kill me if you want. Kensei lay on the sand weakly as he stared at the flash of light in front of him. His throat twitched unnaturally as he could not hide his fear. Kensei's heart was filled with bitterness. This overwhelming strength was not something an ordinary person could handle. He could not help but have a terrifying thought. Recalling Dustless's words, Kensei suddenly felt that it was very appropriate. If I can attack Canon, it means that I'm in a higher dimension than her. He had thought that it was the biggest joke in the world, but now that he thought about it, it felt very real. Your face really makes me uncomfortable. Go to hell. You have no right to continue living. Looking down at Kensei, who was sweating profusely, the light under Dustless's feet grew colder and colder. If it landed, not only Kensei, but even the entire island might change. So, scum like you have no right to live in this world. Disappear. As soon as he finished speaking, the light under Dustless's feet fell. Boom boom boom. A huge ball of fire rose from the ground. Kensei's body was not even left behind. Dustless had erased his name from this planet. So strong. Lofria's rosy little mouth opened and closed, her lips trembling slightly. Her eyes were empty as she looked at the huge flaming mushroom cloud. Even though she was several hundred meters away, she could still clearly feel the intense tremors. Ugh, it hurts. She tried to move her body to a more comfortable sitting position, but after a slight movement, she had no choice but to sit down again. Her face was as pale as snow due to the sharp pain all over her body. If you continue to move, you might die. The sky suddenly darkened, and a ripple appeared in Lofria's beautiful eyes. She then raised her head and saw Dustless, who had suddenly appeared. Where's Canon? Seeing that Dustless had appeared and Canon was nowhere to be seen, Lofria started to panic. She thought that something had happened to Canon. She's fine. She's sleeping. You, on the other hand, will definitely die if this drags on. I may be immune to Canon's attacks, but you're just an ordinary human. It's already a miracle that your body didn't explode. Dustless explained softly. She could sense that Lofreya had been severely injured, and her internal organs were all dislocated. If she didn't receive treatment, she might not be able to hold on for long. To Dustless, Canon's so-called angel imitation was naturally not worth mentioning, but to an ordinary human like Lofreya, it was definitely a catastrophe. It was inconceivable that she was not killed by Canon's full-powered attack. Perhaps this is fate. When she jumped off the spaceship, she was already prepared to die. However, life was sometimes full of twists and turns. God had played a big joke on her. In the end, she escaped the disaster and drifted on this deserted island. However, in the end, he still couldn't avoid death. Others might not be able to treat your injuries, but it's actually not difficult for me. It's just that. Dustless's mouth stopped, and his expression was a little awkward and troubled. Your Excellency, can you really heal me? Lofria's eyes shone brightly. She was very excited. Life and death, only an idiot would choose to die, especially if it was such a hasty and meaningless death. It's not a problem for my medical ninjutsu to save you. Looking at Lofria's clear eyes, Dustless frowned and said, but your internal organs are all dislocated. If you want to recover, I will have to take off your clothes. Just these trivial matters. Lofria was rather surprised. Her light tone made it seem as if she was talking about trivial matters that were not worth mentioning. Is there something wrong with your head? How can this be considered a trivial matter? This time, it was Dustless's turn to be speechless. If he said this to Jeej Rochelle, Hanban Sayaka, or Natsuki, Dustless would believe that they would choose to die. Pucci. Lafria decisively tore off her royal attire, revealing her perfect body. However, even though her cleavage was top-notch, it wasn't as beautiful as imagined. Due to the dislocation of her internal organs, most of her body was covered in blood-red bruises, which almost covered her entire upper body. It was just a ghastly sight. The blood-red bruises made people not dare to look at them directly, and they couldn't help but empathize with her. Really decisive. Dustless gave a look of praise. It was really surprising that a princess could be so carefree. Then, he put his hands on Lafria's chest. A large amount of blue light appeared in his palms and invaded Lafria's body to heal her. The effect was immediate. In a short while, Lafria's complexion improved a lot. You actually have the power to turn something rotten into something magical. I'm afraid that even the true ancestor couldn't do it. Are you really a human? This world where vampires run rampant has such a unique human like you. It's really shocking. Lafria's mouth was agape. She couldn't hide her shock. Diseases could be treated, but a terminal disease that could be cured in a few minutes was just too unbelievable. Everything has an exception. Dustless laughed dryly. About 5 or 6 minutes later, the bruises on Lafria's abdomen had completely disappeared. Only then did he retract his hand and pass his jacket to her. He couldn't let her be naked. Dustless's performance was ordinary. He didn't pay any attention to Lafria. This was actually a small problem. There was nothing to praise about it. Chapter 1542. Dustless lazily leaned on the branch, waiting for Natsuki to come to his rescue. Lafria secretly glanced at him, her bright eyes occasionally flashing with a bright light. Dustless gently closed his eyes, comfortably enjoying the lazy and beautiful sun. He hummed a little tune, seeming to be in a good mood. The corners of his mouth curled up. Suddenly, Dustless realized that the sunlight was blocked. He opened his bright eyes, and the scene that greeted him made him frown. Lafria blocked the sunlight, stood up, and stared at herself. Don't you feel that you have to take responsibility for me? After pondering for a while, Lafria spoke with a very bitter tone. Responsibility. Hearing this, Dustless had a strange expression. He did not remember wrongly that he had done anything outrageous. Miss Lafria, what do I have to take responsibility for? I did not force you to accept my treatment. The person who tore your clothes was you. But you saw it. Lafria said angrily. This. Dustless opened his mouth, cursing in his heart. If I did not treat you, you would have died. Now, not only did she not say a word of thanks, she even blamed me. What the F***ck? Then how do I have to take responsibility for you? Dustless asked indifferently. You can't expect me to dig out my eyes, right? That price is too frightening. Who knows, maybe I will kill you first. Very simple. Lafria revealed a sly smile and said bluntly, you just have to marry into the kingdom of Aldisha. This way, your crimes will be forgiven. Marry into the kingdom of Aldisha. This was the first time Dustless had heard such a strange word. After pondering for a long time, he suddenly shook his head. If I did not guess wrong, you planned this from the start, right? If that is the case, I am very sorry. I have no interest in marrying into the kingdom of Aldisha. Even if you have the right to inherit the throne, it is not attractive to me. Hearing this, Lafria frowned. Am I not charming enough? That's not it. You're very beautiful. Dustless shook his head and said honestly, if I'm not wrong, the reason you want me to marry into your family is because you value my strength. Your Aldisha kingdom borders the War King's domain, and your relationship with each other isn't good. There are even wars happening at the border. Speaking up to this point, Dustless stared at Lofreya. After all, there were powerful vampires in the warlord's domain, as well as the true ancestor, who had oppressed an entire era. It was certain that the kingdom of Aldisha would not be able to defeat them, so it was inevitable that they would want to recruit Dustless. Lofreya was the eldest princess, not a love-struck fool. Dustless had only helped her once. The main reason was because she valued Dustless's strength. In the future, she would have enough confidence when facing the Battle King domain. You offended Vatler, and I heard that you captured him and demanded compensation from the warlord domain. This might anger those vampires, so we should be on the same side. Lofreya asked in confusion. Everyone had a grudge against the Battle Monarch domain. Was it wrong to join forces against the first true ancestor? To me, allies are too superfluous. Dustless did not answer Lofreya directly. To put it bluntly, there is no need for me to marry into your family, and I don't need to borrow the strength of others. Are you thinking of? Lofreya's mouth twitched, and she asked with difficulty, are you thinking of going against the warlord domain alone? That's the first true ancestor, far stronger than the fourth true ancestor. It's just a true ancestor. Dustless was abnormally calm. He did not understand how a true ancestor was strong. You make it sound so easy. Lofreya smiled bitterly. At the same time, she was very confident in Dustless's strength. The battle just now proved everything. To be able to capture Vatler, who was the closest to the true ancestor, alive and use him to threaten the warlord domain for compensation, anyone who dared to do such a thing was either an idiot with a screw loose or someone with absolute strength. Lofreya believed the latter. It seems that Natsuki Minamiya will not come to pick us up. The power of the Tensigan spread out, and the sea within a radius of 10 kilometers was very clear. There was not even a shadow of a ship. If Dustless wants to go back, he will have to solve it himself. Fly back with her. Forget it. Just now, he just treated her and asked to marry into her family. If he carries her back, it will cause a lot of trouble. Let's use this island as a spaceship. Looking at the island that was not bad, Dustless sighed and immediately activated the power of the Tensigan. Use this island to take the spaceship? Lofreya stared at Dustless with a confused face. She did not understand what Dustless was talking about. Caw caw caw. Suddenly, a loud rumbling sound came from the stable island as if there was an earthquake. This is... Lofreya stared at the scene in front of her in shock, and finally understood what Dustless was talking about. She was shocked to find that the entire island was lifted off the sea and began to float. You can do such a thing. Laviria was dumbstruck. Her entire body was petrified. She stared at Dustless's calm face, as if she was silently narrating a trivial matter. Glancing at Lofreya, Dustless explained softly, the power of the Tensigan is enough to control a planet, controlling an island is a piece of cake, no need to be surprised. Also, quickly wipe the saliva from the corner of your mouth, it is not good for your image to be on Itagami Island. You bastard! Lofreya heard Dustless's words and rolled her eyes, embarrassed, and immediately wiped the saliva from her mouth, and her delicate face was replaced by a blush. Using an uninhabited island as a tool, Dustless can think of such a thing. Chapter 1543. Anyway, the Magister's plastic tools had already been demolished. Demolishing their island could be considered as getting rid of evil for the people. With such an idea in mind, Wuchen did not feel guilty at all. When the residents of Itagami Island saw the island flying towards them, they were shocked and quickly ran for their lives. What a joke! If the entire island was hit, it would definitely collapse. Even if the island fell into the sea, it might cause a tsunami. Fortunately, Natsuki Minamiya appeared in time and stopped Dustless. Otherwise, the island would be in big trouble. I didn't send anyone to pick you up and you just flew an island here. What if it falls? The sky above Itagami Island was covered by an island that was tens of kilometers in size. It was dark and gloomy. If it fell, Itagami Island would be wiped off the face of the earth. I had no choice. Dustless shrugged and pointed at Kanace Cannon and Lofreya. I was just treating her and they forced me to marry into their kingdom. You have to take responsibility for this. Lofreya looked at Dustless and said firmly. This little girl, Natsuki Minamiya, frowned. She could understand why Lofreya wanted to marry into the kingdom, but it was too much to ask Dustless to marry into their kingdom. Did they even consider whether the Lion King organization was willing to do so? This guy, Natsuki Minamiya finally understood why the Lion King organization was so obsessed with Dustless. His potential was much higher than Koju's. It was understandable that they wanted to find another way out. Lofreya Lihane, there's something I need to make clear to you. Dustless, Natsuki Minamiya pointed at Dustless and patted her chest. This guy is now one of my people. Please don't do anything to him, especially during working hours. One of your people. Lofreya's eyes froze when she heard this. She looked at Natsuki with interest and asked, You're so small. Can you resist him? You shouldn't be so selfish. Ha! Nangong Natsuki was confused. She stared at Lofreya with a puzzled expression. When she saw Lofreya's mocking expression, she finally understood that Lofreya had misunderstood. Get this straight. I'm that guy's boss. It's not the kind of relationship you think it is. Natsuki's delicate and beautiful face twitched a few times. She raised her voice and emphasized, I don't care about your matters, but I will never agree to marrying into the family. It wasn't easy for a human comparable to a true ancestor to appear. How could they let him marry into their family? Let alone Natsuki Nangong, even the Lion King organization would refuse. Is that so? Blinking her eyes, Lofreya said with dissatisfaction, You seem to be meddling too much. You have to understand that love is freedom, and you have no reason to restrict him. Who told me to be his boss? Natsuki Nangong didn't buy it and said in a businesslike tone. A certain supermarket on Itagami Island. Dustless was picking vegetables for dinner. He naturally didn't know about the matter between Natsuki and Lofreya, but even if he did, he wouldn't meddle in their business. Senpai, there's also this. GMO Shuelai poured a bunch of onions into the kitchen. Dustless was complaining. It wasn't that he was picky, but GMO Shuelai loved onions. She could eat them in almost every meal. What's wrong with that guy? Dustless saw a sneaky boy from the corner of his eye. He frowned and thought, he doesn't seem to be an enemy, but he has been following me and Shuelai for an hour. What an idiot. Do you think I didn't notice him? His target is me or Shuelai. I can count the number of people I have offended in this world. Apart from Koju, it seems like there are only people from the Battle King domain. Shuelai, you pick first. My stomach is not feeling well. I need to go to the bathroom. Dustless suddenly said. GMO Shuelai nodded and urged, Senpai, please hurry. You know Sayaka's personality. I know. Dustless turned around and left. At the same time, he continued to observe that mysterious black figure from the corner of his eye. He only hesitated for a second, then followed Dustless to the bathroom. Your target is me. What a reckless kid. Dustless's eyes shone with a cold light. He had decided to ambush this reckless kid in the bathroom. Creak. The door was gently pushed open. A young man with a strong boyish aura sneaked into the bathroom. He looked around, as if he was trying to find Dustless. Are you looking for me? An indifferent voice suddenly sounded behind him. The young man jumped in fright and abruptly turned his head around. However, a large hand covered his face. "Kid, why are you following me? If you don't give me an explanation, I will cut you into pieces today." Dustless grabbed the young man's neck and threatened him with a serious face. However, he was confused. This young man's skin was very smooth, like silk. "Bastard, let go of me. Are you trying to kill me?" The young man struggled to speak. He struggled and shook his body. His voice was pleasing to the ears. He didn't have a male Adam's apple. The first impression he gave was that of a boy, but in reality, he was not. Could this guy be? Dustless stared at the young man for a while. He noticed a bulge on his chest. Then, he looked at his purple eyes and thought of a person. Could he be Senpai Muyuma? Dustless stared at the young man's face. It would be ridiculous to call him a boy. Then, he thought of the library member that appeared on Itagami Island. He was 80% sure that this young man was Senpai Muyuma. Chapter 1544. After knowing the girl's identity, Wu-chan loosened her hands and stared coldly at Shiendu Muyuma. He didn't hide his purpose and said bluntly, "Give me an explanation for following me, or I will make you regret it." His tone was filled with warning and hostility. Anyone would be pissed if they were stalked for no reason. "I stalked you." "Stop joking, I don't even know you," Yuma retorted loudly. "Please don't accuse others, I can sue you for slander. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you are a member of Itagami Island's police force. This is a lawful society, you have to have evidence. You are being unreasonable, but I don't have any evidence." Wu Chen's eyes were filled with astonishment. He quietly looked at Shiendu Muyuma. Her eloquence was unexpectedly good. "No evidence means you are slandering me, I can report you for dereliction of duty." Yuma glared at Chin Fan and complained. Her watery eyes were covered with a layer of mist, the words "I feel wronged" were written all over her face. "Don't you know that there is a saying that trouble comes from careless talk?" Dustless ignored the girl's complaint and said indifferently. "Since you don't know me, how do you know I am a member of the police force?" Hearing this, Immortal Dumu Yuma was stunned and speechless. Speechless, right? Wu-chan stared at him quietly, and his hands reached out to grab Yuma's head. His right eye also changed, and the purple reincarnation Sharingan was exposed. "Bastard, let go of me!" Shiendu's Muyuma retorted loudly. At the same time, she struggled with all her might. However, her strength was nothing to Wu-chan. "You better know your place and don't move. Last time I extracted someone's memory, that guy turned into an idiot. So you better listen to me, or you might turn into an idiot too," Wu-chan suddenly said. His words made Muyuma's face turn pale. Boom boom boom. When Chin Fan was about to extract Yuma's memory, he heard the door being broken open. "Bastard, what do you want to do to Yuma?" A familiar voice came, and Dustless's indifferent face immediately changed into a disgusted expression. "Why do I keep bumping into this brat wherever I go?" The familiar voice belonged to Xiao Guqing, but there was also a voluptuous woman with him. Koja's mother. Dustless recognized her after a brief moment of confusion. "Guqing, save me. This guy wants to molest me." Seeing her savior appear, Immortal Capital's Muyuma hurriedly called for help. She had already investigated Dustless, and he was as terrifying as the rumors said. The strangest thing was that he could extract other people's memories. "Let go of Yuma!" Koja roared. Golden lightning crackled all over his body. "Scram if you don't want to die." Coldly glancing at Koju, Dustless was a bit angry. He hated this idiot who thought that the true ancestor was invincible. "Your Excellency, you've gone too far." At this time, Koju's mother suddenly spoke. Her skin was white and beautiful, and her cleavage was particularly impressive. She was extremely eye-catching, and her tone was very gentle. "I've gone too far." Dustless sneered. "This guy secretly followed me, and now he's accusing me of molesting her for no reason. Do you still think I've gone too far?" If it was before, Dustless would have already cut this person into 8 pieces. This. Koju's mother, Xiao Shinsen, frowned. She knew that Dustless wasn't someone to be trifled with, so she could only helplessly say, "Let her go, I'm the one who arranged for Yuma to follow you. Then I'll be polite." Dustless's expression turned cold as he turned into a flash of light and pounced at Koju's mother. "Bastard, come find me if you have the guts." Koju cursed. Dustless ignored him and only stared at Koju with a mocking gaze. Xiao Shinsen was powerless to be subdued in an instant, and his golden sword was pressed against her throat. "Since you're going against me, I'll bully your mother." Dustless stared at Xiao Shinsen with interest. This guy was asking for humiliation. Dustless knew that this matter had nothing to do with her, but Xiao Shinsen insisted on taking the blame. As for why Xiandumu Yuma was following him, in fact, Dustless had also vaguely guessed her purpose. She wanted to borrow his power to release Xiandumu, who was imprisoned in the prison. "Your son is going against me every day, and Yuma is also his childhood friend. She's also going against me, so I'm very uncomfortable right now." Dustless coldly stared at Xiao Shinsen, his tone filled with hostility. "Then what do you want?" People under the eaves had no choice but to lower their heads. Xiao Shinsen was also filled with helplessness. He was afraid that even if the 3 of them joined hands, they wouldn't be a match for Dustless. "It's very simple, I want to use you to humiliate Koju." Staring at Koju maliciously, Wu Chen's words immediately enraged him. This was a supermarket after all, and he didn't dare to release his curly beast. A few days ago, he was locked up in the prison of the Special Regions Police Force. He didn't want to go back to the prison and suffer again. Bang! Koju jumped into the air and smashed Dustless's head. "Ouch, it hurts." The one screaming wasn't Dustless, but Koju, who was in pain. His fist was already red and swollen, causing him to grimace in pain. "Is your head made of meteorite?" Preposterous. Koju's face was filled with sorrow, and his lungs were about to explode from anger. He had finally managed to hit Dustless with great difficulty, but he didn't expect such a result. Chapter 1545. Xiao Shinsen's delicate face twitched unnaturally a few times. In all fairness, she was stared at by Wu Chen's horrifying gaze to the point her entire body felt uncomfortable, and it was as if a tiger hiding in the dark was spying on her. "What will it take for you to let us go?" Xiao Shinsen didn't want to cause more trouble, so she lowered her posture and begged, "You have a grudge with my son. It's my fault for sending Yuma to follow him, but I had no other choice. As a mother, no mother would want her son to be in danger. I hope you can understand." "This bastard." Koju cursed inwardly. He had never been so aggrieved in his life. "This has nothing to do with me." Hearing this, Wu Chen's heart was like it was made of iron. It didn't waver in the slightest. It was still so cold and unreasonable. He looked at him coldly. "Your son is a big idiot who overestimates himself. He deserves to be beaten for provoking me." "You!" Koju's lungs were about to explode. This guy was very skilled at cursing people. He didn't even need to repeat his words. "How about this? Let's end this matter here and mind our own business from now on." Having lived for several decades, Koju's mother, Xiao Shinsen, was much more patient than her son. "That's fine, but," Dustless nodded and then said a condition that made Koju collapse, "I'm in a bad mood today. I was planning to have some fun after dinner, but you guys ruined it. So, I'll have to trouble you a bit, Auntie." What do you want my mother to do? Koju's face was constipated. He looked at Dustless's mean and teasing smile and knew that it wasn't something good. Nothing. Since you've ruined tonight's fun time, why don't you perform a striptease for me? Dustless gave an extremely crazy and evil condition in front of Koju. Gulp. Yuma choked with sobs and subconsciously looked at Koju. Guh. Sure enough, this guy immediately went berserk. On his forehead, countless veins protruded, darting here and there, as if there were worms swimming about. It was terrifying. In the face of such insane conditions, no one would be able to endure it. Say it again if you dare. Koju clenched his fists with a cracking sound. His whole body erupted with a majestic power. Even the windows of the bathroom were shattered and the floor showed signs of cracking. Don't push your luck. Xiao Shinsen's face turned green as he gnashed his teeth in anger. It would have been fine if no one had heard it, but the key was that Dustless seemed to be deliberately disgusting. He casually said such words in front of Koju and Immortal City's Muyuma. Koju was her son, so Dustless was deliberately angering him. You're unhappy. Glancing at Koju, Dustless revealed a strange smile and feigned fear. How about I change my condition? Please don't kill me, true ancestor. You bastard, Koju's face darkened. Even though Dustless said, true ancestor, and he enjoyed it, his strange tone and gloating expression were clearly mocking him. Since you don't want Xiao Shinsen to do the striptease alone, then. Dustless paused here and looked at Immortal City's Muyuma. Gulp. Immortal City's Muyuma subconsciously took a few steps back. Dustless's glowing eyes made her shiver. She was truly afraid of this powerful, lawless, and insane person. It's indeed inappropriate for your mother to do the striptease alone. She still lacks a dance partner, then. Dustless pointed at Immortal City's Muyuma and said with a wicked expression. She can do it too. I don't care if there's one more person. You are courting death. Koju said each word through gritted teeth. He took a step forward with his right foot, causing the floor to explode. Then, lightning began to flow around his body. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Koju's body was covered in golden lightning. His speed was so fast that the eyes couldn't keep up with him. However, in Dustless's eyes, he was as slow as a turtle. In the end, he was only a true ancestor. Binding down number 61, 6-rod light prison. 6 huge lights appeared out of nowhere. The moment Koju's fist was about to hit Dustless, he was immobilized. He lost basic control of his body and couldn't move effectively. Even though Dustless was right in front of him, Koju couldn't do anything. Oh, look at how evil your son is. I was just about to forgive him and now this brat wants to attack me. Your apology has no sincerity at all. Dustless pointed at Koju and sighed in disappointment. Pfft. Xiao Shinsen and Immortal City's Muyuma both vomited blood. How could they blame Koju for going berserk? After all, their mother and childhood friend were asked to do a striptease. No one could tolerate such a crazy thing. If Koju could remain calm after hearing that, then he would be the one with a mental illness. Come at me if you have the guts. Koju angrily shouted. This guy was too shameless. He felt extremely tragic in his heart. Ever since he encountered Dustless, this jinx, his unlucky deeds had been endless. He was cheated by Dustless to the point that it was as miserable as being possessed by the god of misfortune. I've been waiting for you to say this. Dustless coldly walked towards Koju. Although Xiao Shinsen was quite pretty, she was still a withered flower. Dustless was only making things difficult for her in order to get back at Koju. Chapter 1546. Koju coughed up blood as he watched Dustless slowly walk over. He vaguely understood what this guy was trying to do. This guy was obviously trying to provoke him and wait for him to take the initiative to bear all the consequences. And this way, Dustless could beat him up viciously. Come back. Don't touch the ancient city. Come at me. Xiao Shinsen also saw through Dustless's intentions and immediately screamed. And me. Mustering her courage, Immortal Capital's Yuma Mu also stood up to oppose. Oh, now I finally know what it means to be in love with each other, Dustless chuckled, but his heart was in a bad mood. His complaints toward Koju increased, and he planned to torture this damned brat later. But, none of them worked. Dustless bluntly ignored the two girls and stared at Koju. He said gently, "Tell me, how should I punish you for attacking me?" "Suit yourself." Koju turned around. He didn't want to waste words on a smiling tiger like Dustless. They were two different people from different worlds, so there was no point in wasting words. Humph. Dustless hardened his heart and mercilessly kicked him. Bang! As a man, Koju's most important part was attacked. He immediately grimaced in pain. Ayo! He screamed in pain, and his face twisted in pain. He glared at Dustless. He didn't expect this guy to be such a bastard. Was he trying to end their family line? Enough is enough. Xiao Shinsen, who couldn't take it anymore, flew into a rage and said in a deep voice, "Isn't it just a striptease? I'll do it." In the face of Dustless's vicious methods, Xiao Shinsen could only lower her head and admit defeat. It was undeniable that she could not afford to offend such a demon-level character. The current condition was only a striptease, but there was no telling what other perverted conditions would be later. Me too. Immortal City Mu Yuma looked at Koju with pity, but in the end, she compromised with Dustless's perverted conditions. These two are really. Xiao Shinsen and Xiandu Mu Yuma still don't understand the situation. Who wants to see you too? I just want to find an excuse to teach Koju a lesson. They are just a bunch of meatballs, what's there to see? Dustless shook his head in his heart. He was quite lecherous, but he also had his principles. For example, who would want a withered flower like Xiao Shinsen? It was just that looking at Koju's grief-stricken face made him feel particularly comfortable. I'm going to tear you to pieces. Koju cursed. He felt that everything he had experienced today was the greatest humiliation of his life. You still dare to talk back like this? Are you an idiot? Dustless stared at him with pity. This kid was a complete hothead. The more he resisted, the crueler he would be to his friends. Slap, slap, slap. At this moment, two loud slaps were heard. Dustless was stunned. He looked towards the source of the sound and saw that there were two palm prints on Xiao Guqing's cheeks. The person who slapped Xiao Guqing was his mother, Xiao Shinsen. Shut your mouth. Xiao Shinsen warned with an ashen face. She was cursing Koju for being an idiot. She had seen through Dustless's plan and wanted nothing more than for Koju to provoke him. Well done. Dustless gave a thumbs up with a smile in his eyes. Take it off. Pfft. Koju couldn't take the blow and spat out a mouthful of blood. His legs went soft and he fell down like mud under Dustless's shocked gaze. Did he faint from anger? Dustless was stunned. He didn't expect Koju to be so weak. Are you happy now? Xiao Shinsen was furious. She wanted nothing more than to go to the 18th level of hell with Dustless. Your son is a true ancestor. He won't die from anger. Dustless smacked his lips. He wanted Koju to die from anger. And you? Dustless glanced at Xiao Shinsen and then looked down at Xiandu Mu Yuma. If you have any plans against me, you should give it up. It's too much for you. Xiandu Mu Yuma clenched her fists but loosened them. She blamed herself. This was all because of her. If she didn't follow Dustless, this wouldn't have happened. After saying that, Wu-Chen walked past the two of them and walked towards the exit of the washroom. Wait! Xiao Shinsen's strange voice came. Dustless looked at her and frowned. Is there something else? Or do you want to take revenge? Do you think you can do what a true ancestor can't? Don't seek your own death. It's not revenge. Hearing this, Xiao Shinsen shook his head like a rattledrum. What a joke. Wasn't this just asking to be humiliated by others? Only an idiot would do that. What I mean is, Xiao Shinsen hesitated and asked awkwardly, you're going to let us go? Don't you want to watch us strip? After saying that, Xiao Shinsen's face flushed red. It was as if she was hoping that Wu-Chen would watch her performance. Don't be so full of yourself. My target wasn't you. Dustless glanced at Xiao Shinsen and Shindu Muyuma. I don't want to watch your performance. Let's go our separate ways. I just didn't like that kid and wanted to teach him a lesson. It has nothing to do with you. As soon as his voice fell, Wu-Chen immediately broke the door and left. Who would have thought that just as he walked to the corridor of the bathroom, an extremely unkind figure blocked his way? This is bad. Cursing in his heart, Dustless suddenly realized that something was wrong and uneasy. Chapter 1547. It was Jijua Shelley. Senior, you took too long to go to the bathroom. Jijua Shelley complained. She was carrying a lot of shopping bags at the moment, but Wu-Chen's face was full of joy. Cough, cough, cough. Dustless coughed awkwardly and said, I'm old, I'm fine. Let's go home. My stomach has been hurting for a while, and I feel better now. Dustless quickly blocked Jijua Shelley's view. He was afraid that she would see him in the bathroom. Bang, bang, bang. In the evening, the sound of glass shattering came from Koju's house. Koju was so angry that he smashed a cup to vent his frustration. I'm the most useless true ancestor, right? Koju lay on the bed with empty eyes. If he had known that being a true ancestor would be so frustrating, he would have never accepted Agrora's power. It was a huge burden. Koju, have some water. Immortal's Muyuma thoughtfully handed a cup of water to Koju. However, the kid's face was filled with anger. Looking at Muyuma's gentle face, he felt a sense of defeat from the depths of his soul. I'm so useless. Koju sighed, his voice full of disappointment. It's not your fault. It's that guy's fault. He's too perverted. Yuma smiled bitterly and tried to cheer Koju up. At first glance, Koju looked like a weakling who couldn't even beat a human. No matter what, he was still a true ancestor of vampires. But if one thought about it carefully, it had nothing to do with him. Dustless was just too perverted. How could a human be strong enough to fight a true ancestor? That was cheating. Am I going to be suppressed by him in the future? Forget it. I'll just kill myself. Otherwise, I'll be pissed to death by that bastard. Even if the lifespan of vampires is almost infinite, I won't be able to resist him. After saying that, Koju ran into the kitchen. It looked like he wanted to stab himself. Even his mother and childhood sweetheart were forced to strip to protect him. If he had to endure such disdain, he might as well die. Don't be discouraged. Seeing Koju run to the kitchen, Yuma quickly stopped him. You can't beat him alone, but you can find a reliable ally. Allies? After mulling over this special term for a while, Koju became even more depressed. He sighed and said, don't mention it. My class teacher, Natsuki Nangong, used to take care of me, but I don't know what kind of magic potion Dustless fed her. Lately, she's been lukewarm to me. Koju was frustrated and couldn't find a suitable ally. Ever since Dustless appeared, the people around him had all jumped ship to Dustless' side. That's just on the surface. In reality, there are many allies in the dark. There's a special place on Itagami Island called the Prison Barrier. We can choose anyone we want to ally with. Yuma smiled mysteriously and explained, there's a place on Itagami Island called the Prison Barrier. Prison. Koju frowned. He wasn't in a hurry to agree to Yuma's conditions. He looked at her suspiciously and said, the people in prison don't seem to be good people. Becoming allies is like asking for trouble. Is that so? Then are you willing to see Auntie being pressured by Dustless? Immortal Capitals. Yuma wasn't surprised. She and Koju were childhood friends, so she naturally understood his personality. She carefully explained, not everyone who is imprisoned is a bad person, and not everyone who is free and unfettered in the outside world is a good person. You're right. Koju heavily nodded. There were countless people who were framed and sent to prison. At the same time, there were also many murderous maniacs who were free and unfettered outside. For example, Dustless. In Koju's opinion, Dustless should be sent to the 18th level of hell. For example, my mother, Yuma I. She's imprisoned in the prison barrier, but she's not a bad person. She was caught in a small accident years ago. She is very powerful. After you rescue Mother, you can form an alliance with her. In the end, you will definitely be able to defeat Wu Qin. Yuma encouraged Koju. Her eyes were filled with regret. She could only say sorry. Since she couldn't borrow Dustless's power, she could only choose Koju, who was slightly weaker than Dustless. He was much more simple-minded than Dustless, and he was also much weaker. In short, Koju was easier to trick than Dustless. At Dustless's house next door. Gulp. Dustless was sitting on the sofa, patting his stomach lazily. After teasing Koju, his appetite had increased. He almost finished 5 people's worth of dinner. Shower and sleep. Shelly is still in the bathroom, let's wait. Dustless went to the bedroom. It's going to be hot tomorrow, so he wanted to change into a summer shirt. Who would have thought that after pushing open the door, the scene that greeted his eyes left him at a loss? That eye. Dustless's face turned red. He was speechless. He realized he walked into the wrong place. He was supposed to go back to the bedroom, but he opened the door to the bathroom. Disappear. Shelly jumped into the water and stared at Dustless angrily. She didn't like his character at all. Preposterous. Could it be that I'm old and blind? Dustless awkwardly closed the door and left. Luckily, Kajisaka Sayaka had already gone to bed. Otherwise, she would have come to find him again. Did I make a mistake this time? Dustless looked at the bedroom door. He took a deep breath and pushed the door open. What he saw stunned him. La Freya, why are you sleeping in my... No, this isn't my room. Dustless's expression changed. He suddenly realized that something was wrong with the room. He lowered his head and pondered. This happened in the original novel as well. It seems like the space around Itagami Island was distorted. It seems to be the precursor to the release of the immortal Woody Yi. Chapter 1548. Dustless felt very awkward. At this moment, La Freya was only wearing simple pajamas with only a layer of light pink gauze. Dustless's vision was already good to begin with, and this sleepiness was as thin as a cicada's wings. It was almost transparent as it fell into Dustless's eyes. Cough, cough, cough. Dustless's face slightly changed as he coughed a few times. After cursing the initiator a few thousand times, he hurriedly put on a fake smile and said, "Sorry, I went to the wrong door." "You said you went to the wrong door." La Freya pouted. She obviously didn't buy it. She curled her lips and said with disdain, "Did I hear wrong? You went to the wrong door and actually walked into someone else's bedroom? Are you sure you didn't sleepwalk but went to the wrong door?" Hearing this, Dustless was speechless. This was an undeniable fact. Even if he went to the wrong door, the first place he entered was someone else's living room, not Lofreya's bedroom. Forget it, there's nothing to explain. Shaking his head, Dustless was too lazy to talk nonsense. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly felt a pair of soft and delicate arms hugging him. He was instantly startled. Lowering his head, he saw Lofreya's lustful eyes. What's the matter? Being hugged by Lofreya, Dustless knitted his brows. He was slightly resistant. A beauty throwing herself into his arms, especially when the other party was a princess. She was beautiful and had a high status. Lofreya was enough to arouse the desire of anyone. However, thinking that she was just using him as a tool, Dustless's heart was filled with resistance. Let go of me. Dustless stared at Lofreya's watery eyes, his tone as calm as water. Am I that unattractive? Lofreya sighed in disappointment. Her bleak tone aroused pity. She indeed had the mentality of using Dustless as a tool. However, this was pardonable. Who told her country to have a conflict with the War King's territory? It was normal for her to find someone with long legs to hug. I can understand your thoughts, but you ignored my mentality. Dustless said lazily. At the same time, he took 2 deep breaths of Lofreya's body fragrance. Dustless nodded with a smile and praised, "It smells good." Dustless left after saying that. He turned around and sat on the sofa in the living room. He didn't dare to casually enter the house now. He was afraid that he might barge into someone's bathroom again. Releasing the shackles on immortals would neck requires a huge amount of magic power. I'm afraid that immortals would Yuma thought that my magic power was strong enough because she saw how strong I was. But I'm sorry. Dustless shook his head. In fact, he didn't understand the so-called mana at all. He was just a dabbler. Not to mention a huge amount of mana, he didn't even have a trace of it. Itagami Island's mana is greater than the dragon vein. It seems like only that dabbler true ancestor can do it. In the original story, immortals would Yuma look for Akatsuki Koju to do this. Dustless pondered. That surging wave of mana was not ordinary. It was almost tangible. True ancestor was called invincible for a reason. First of all, his majestic mana was far superior. I'll use this opportunity to get rid of Koju, said Lin Yun with a murderous glint in his eyes. His pitch-black pupils emitted a soul-stirring baleful aura. In fact, Dustless wanted nothing more than for Akatsuki Koju to release the prisoners. That way, he would be an accomplice. Neither Natsuki nor the Lion King organization would meddle in his affairs. Ding ding ding, just when Wu Chen was deep in thought, his mobile phone suddenly rang. Looking at the unfamiliar phone number, an unexpected figure suddenly appeared in Wu Chen's mind. It's her. The person who called Dustless was Akatsuki Koju's other childhood sweetheart, Blue Feather. But because of Dustless's mischief, their relationship was completely broken and they even parted ways. That's strange. Wu Chen touched his chin curiously. After hesitating for a while, he finally chose to answer the phone. Miss Blue Feather, what's the matter? I'm going to sleep now. Dustless spoke first. Hey. What's with your lazy tone? If I remember correctly, you are a member of the Special Regions Police Force. Don't use such a casual tone. It's as if you are an outsider. Blue Feather's extremely strict tone came from the other side. It was as if she ate several tons of explosives. Her angry tone made Dustless quite depressed. He didn't seem to have offended her in any way. You have to take responsibility for this. Blue Feather said sternly. It's worth mentioning that she is also one of the victims of the spatial distortion. She accidentally entered someone's room when she was sleeping. What made her want to cry was that the room she accidentally entered was Dustless's room. Even though she has never been to Dustless's room, she is quite familiar with his clothes and his unique scent. That's why she got angry for no reason. Are you sure? Maybe you found that the person who caused this incident is one of your familiar friends. Lowering his voice, Wu-chan explained with a hidden meaning. He is 100% sure that it is Akatsuki Koju. He is the only one on Itagami Island who has the ability to distort space. I don't care who it is, I will arrest them and punish them according to the law. Blue Feather's tone remained unchanged. I hope you don't regret this. Dustless hung up the phone and stared calmly at the purple horizon. That's the direction of Itagami Island's foundation gate. That's where the boundless magical energy came from. The entire Itagami Island is in a state of chaos. Many places have spatial distortion. The entire island is in a precarious situation. Chapter 1549. The space around Itagami Island is in chaos. The number of criminals increased as well. Screams of agony could be heard everywhere. The normally safe Itagami Island has become a crime capital. Yuma. Isn't this a bit too much? Koju and Immortal Capital Yuma stood at the highest point of the cornerstone gate. They looked down at the chaotic world with pity in their eyes. Focusing his gaze, he saw a magic book floating in the void. Koju's majestic mana was driving it. This simple magic book was emitting bursts of demonic light, looking extremely mysterious and demonic. The evil light overflowing from the book made people shiver uncontrollably. It was full of indescribable mana, and just a glance at it would make one's mind become immersed in it. Scram, scum, many innocent citizens were dragged into this mess. The city fell into unprecedented chaos. Many criminals took advantage of the situation and broke the law. No one restrained them. Is this a bad thing for us to do? Koju was moved. He used to be a normal human too. It's fine. Don't you want to take revenge on Dustless? Immortal Capital Yuma urged softly. Her voice was filled with unconcealable sorrow and pain. Koju was distracted and didn't notice it. However, Immortal Capital Yuma had no choice. Her existence was to revive Immortal Capital Yuma. She could only apologize to Koju. If possible, Immortal Capital Yuma didn't want to lie to Koju. However, Dustless was too strong. She couldn't control Dustless. Thus, she had to take a step back and look for Koju. That guy. Koju recalled Dustless's ugly face and heard Dustless's mockery. He gritted his teeth and said, "He dared to humiliate me like that. I want to take him down with me." At the mention of Dustless, Koju's mana increased a bit. Koju, don't worry. Once Mother is released from prison, you too can defeat that guy. Victory will be in our hands. Immortal Capital Yuma took the opportunity to persuade. Defeat me. A ghost-like commotion suddenly resounded. It was extremely frightening. Who are you? Hurry up and come out. I'm the fourth true ancestor. Koju shouted loudly after looking around. Previously, he had resisted the idea of being the fourth true ancestor, but now, he had accepted it. As for the reason, what a joke. He wasn't even a match for Dustless when he was a true ancestor. If he abandoned his status as a true ancestor, wouldn't that be courting death? TSK. You two are really heartless. We haven't even been apart for a day and you two are already looking down on me. A ripple appeared in the void, and then a crack was torn open in the sky. It's you. Seeing the smiling figure walking out of the crack, Koju immediately put on a constipated expression, which was even uglier than if he had swallowed 100 tons of flies. This person was his archenemy and nemesis, Dustless. That perpetual smile remained natural from beginning to end. That bastard is laughing at me again. Koju's face darkened. In his view, whenever Dustless smiled at him, he would be in trouble. The first time he met Dustless, this guy had a sly smile on his face, but he was caught for no reason. The second time, Jeej Shelley thought he was a pervert, and the third time was even more tragic. He didn't do anything, but Blue Feather called him a rapist, and the fourth time, in short, every time Dustless smiled at him, Koju didn't think it was a good thing. Youth, Dustless landed on the ground and lazily put his hands in his pockets. He said in surprise, Immortal Capital Yuma, your methods aren't bad. I thought you would seize the right to use Koju. After all, this simple-minded idiot is brain-damaged and often has his body taken by others. I expected you to be able to take his body, but I didn't expect you to turn him over to your mother's side. In the original work, Koju was the #1 sucker. He was either controlled or had his body taken. His identity as a true ancestor was ruined by him. Give up on your unrealistic plan and I can let you go. Dustless looked straight at the two. Although his tone sounded kind, he actually wanted Koju to release Immortal Capital Yuma. This way, he could avenge his personal grudge and kill this eyesore in one fell swoop. This sudden unforeseen event was a golden opportunity bestowed by heaven to Dustless. Give up the plan. I won't. Hearing the command in Dustless's tone, Koju refused without hesitation. If Dustless liked something, he would refuse. If Dustless didn't like something, he would accept it. Is that so? It seems it will be difficult to negotiate. Let's do it. Dustless stared at Koju with a sneer. After hearing the long-awaited answer, he beckoned with his finger. If you want to die so much, I'll fulfill your wish. Caw caw caw. Koju naturally wouldn't show mercy. His enmity with Dustless was as deep as the ocean. His mother was forced into a striptease. Koju's dignity and heart had suffered a blow. This time, he had to wash away this shame. Otherwise, he would have to live in the shadow of pain for the rest of his life. Boom boom boom. The heavens seemed to have heard Koju's anger. In the boundless night, dazzling lightning immediately jumped out. At the same time, the sky was filled with thunder and immediately attracted the attention of all the Devil Masters. An unexpected figure suddenly appeared. What a surprise, this is going to be a good show. Dustless secretly laughed. This person was Xian Gaiong, one of the 3 saints of the Lion King organization. She was glaring at Koju with an ashen expression. Chapter 1550. Dustless looked at this scene with interest. Xiao Gaiong was probably disappointed with Koju. She originally thought highly of Koju's character, but she didn't expect him to do such a good thing. Yo, yo, yo. Long time no see, Miss Xiao Gaiong. Dustless greeted her with a smile. His tone was filled with schadenfreude. Xiao Gaiong glanced over and didn't reply after seeing that it was Dustless. She could hear Dustless's hidden meaning, but she didn't get angry. First of all, Dustless had the right to mock her, and second, this was indeed the failure of their Lion King organization. Surrender, Koju. Xiao Gaiong took a deep breath and calmed herself down. There was no need to worry about who was the prisoner now, the key was to not let the prison barrier be broken. Give up. Koju shook his head stubbornly and said softly, I have no enmity with you, so please don't meddle in my business. My only target is Dustless, and I won't hurt anyone else. Koju looked at the sloppy Dustless, and his calm eyes immediately became cold and murderous. This guy was becoming more and more of an eyesore. Just you. Or is it because of this swaggering beast? Dustless pointed at the faintly formed lion in the sky and sneered, true ancestors familiar? In the end, it's just a beast. What do you think a mere beast can do? You think it can help you turn the tables? Dustless didn't hide his sarcasm. He raised his head and gathered a large amount of light in his hands. Yasekani no Magatama. Boundless light bullets flew out of Dustless's hands like a rainstorm, carrying Dustless's unhappiness. The destructive light bullets went straight into the depths of the sky. Boom, 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 boom. The golden lion's body was wide, and it was impossible to dodge. After all, there were too many of them, and his body was too big. Even if he managed to dodge some of the fatal attacks, he was still inevitably hit. It's truly inconceivable. This kind of large-scale attack is definitely more terrifying than the true ancestor's curly beast. He's attacking everything within a few kilometers. Xian Gaiyong exclaimed in shock. Looking around, the originally dark and cold sky had been dyed into a large patch of golden light due to the excessive number of light bullets. Ao 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 ao, a miserable howl came out of the golden lion's mouth. If one looked closely, they would see that the golden lion's body had been pierced through by terrifying attacks, leaving behind shocking wounds. The originally awe-inspiring golden lion instantly turned into a drenched rat. It was a tragic sight. Bang bang bang. In the end, the lion's gold could not withstand the destruction and crushing of the light. It turned into countless golden lights and dissipated. The boundless sky was filled with countless flashes of light. Another instant kill. Koju coughed up blood and almost choked to death. He couldn't help but wonder if this was the true ancestor's familiar. A piece of trash that was insta-killed. It's your turn now, Koju. Dustless's killing intent rose. He had been waiting for a long time, and now he finally found the right opportunity to kill Koju. Humph, don't get carried away. Do you really think I'm still the same half-baked person as before? Times have changed. Koju retorted sharply, but his confidence didn't falter. Koju's right hand turned black again, this time with crimson patterns. This guy, Dustless stared blankly at Koju. He wasn't unfamiliar with Koju's actions. This kid was going to summon his curly beast again. He's awakened other familiars. Where did this psychic come from? Dustless was puzzled. He wasn't in a hurry to attack. He could kill this kid at any time, and there was no harm in waiting to see what kind of tricks he had up his sleeve. Even if Koju summoned all his familiars, Dustless was confident in suppressing him. Could it be? His gaze shifted to Yuma. If she was a psychic, then she wasn't bad. It was understandable that she could summon other familiars. Our library might have disappeared, but that doesn't mean our influence has collapsed. Especially after Koju became the fourth primogenitor, I prepared a lot of psychics. Yuma slightly bowed to Dustless as a sign of respect. Dustless's strength wasn't inferior to a primogenitor's familiars, so he deserved her respect. Is that so? I thought it was your blood. Young lady, you're quite mature and know how to prepare for a rainy day. Yuma, the one who created you, must be quite good as well. Dustless nodded and gave her a look of appreciation. He stared at the petite but mature girl in surprise. She was much better than that idiot Koju. Isn't he being a little too calm? Does he have the confidence to take on multiple familiars at once? Yuma frowned while thinking. At the same time, she was wary of Xian Gaiyong. This guy was also a monster that the primogenitor was wary of. You're not going to stop Koju from summoning his familiars? Dustless asked curiously. Xian Gaiyong didn't seem to care and just watched. What's there to be afraid of? Xian Gaiyong shook her head nonchalantly and said with a smile, if the sky falls, you tall people will be the first to be smashed. Does this guy want to sit back and watch me and Koju fight to the death? Dustless had a whole new level of respect for this Xian Gaiyong, one of the three saints of the Lion King organization. These words meant that the organization wouldn't help either of them if they were to fight to the death with Koju. It was simple, the winner was king. Chapter 1551. Wuchen stared at idler Ancient Chant for a while and finally looked away. This guy knew that the battle between the two of them could lead to the destruction of Itagami Island, but he still chose to ignore it. It was obvious that he was prepared to sacrifice one of them. Everyone knew that two tigers couldn't share one mountain. That grimoire. Dustless stared at the mysterious magus floating in the air. He frowned and slowly walked over. This grimoire and the primogenitor's immense mana are the only things that can make the prison barrier appear, right? Dustless walked and said leisurely, in other words, as long as this magic book is destroyed, the prison enchantment may disappear, and your plan to save immortal Muyi will be ruined. Does he want to destroy the grimoire? Immortal City Muyuma's delicate little face was tense. She was very eager to free Immortal City Muyi. Once her mother was free, it would mean that her mission would come to an end and she would regain her freedom. Do you think you can fly and live according to your own wishes after completing your mission? Lightly glancing at Xiandu Muyuma, who was full of longing, Dustless mercilessly said, "This is impossible. Based on your mother's personality, she might kill you in the end. The meaning of your existence is equivalent to a chess piece. To put it bluntly, you are just a tool for her to revive. After Immortal City Muyi revives, it also means that as a tool, you have no place to be used. Immortal City Muyi doesn't need a substitute like you. Death is the best ending for you. So, continuing to imprison Immortal Muyi is also saving you. You should thank me. Now that you're my enemy, it's really sad." Dustless leisurely walked towards the glowing magic book, and a flash of lightning appeared on his fingertips. Sensing Dustless's intention, Yuma hurriedly urged Koju to stop Dustless. "Koju, stop him. I don't need you to tell me that. This guy and I can't live under the same sky." Koju's eyes were like torches as he stood in front of Dustless. His face was full of confidence as if the defeat just now was nothing more than a pipe dream. Unkillable cockroaches always come one after another, but there will be a time when his life force will be exhausted. Dustless completely ignored the awe-inspiring and domineering Akatsuki Koju. He raised his right hand and pointed at the grimoire in the sky, erupting with a sharpness that could penetrate a mountain. Lasers. Under the night sky, a straight ray of light pierced through the sky and rose from the ground, heading straight for the grimoire. Don't even think about it. Koju wasn't willing to be outdone. A large amount of mana burst out of his body, shaking the 100-meter-tall building as a behemoth jumped out of the void. Is that the ninth familiar, double-horned crimson? The monster that came into view had the appearance of a horse, and it exuded a noble and domineering aura. It also had a pair of horns and a beautiful crimson mane. Aooooooo! A wave of hysterical energy came out of the monster's mouth. Its cheers echoed throughout the island as if it was venting its joy of being reborn. Its bright colors and red mane were extremely dazzling. Once it appeared, people couldn't take their eyes off it. It's just a small trick. Koju snorted as he glanced at the dim golden light. In his eyes, it was close to being extinguished. His confidence skyrocketed and he ordered the ninth familiar to attack. Aooooooo! The two-horned Shinfei once again opened his mouth and shouted a few times. Soon after, his pair of long horns that were emitting cold light lightly pointed at the void. The void suddenly rippled with a weak energy, and then it expanded without limit. Boundless ripples then spread out. Boom, boom, boom. The moment the invisible wave of energy came into contact with the golden light, it exploded. Dustless's plan to destroy the grimoire was completely foiled. That energy wave without a corpse seemed to be a high-frequency vibration, shock wave. Due to frequency resonance, it destroys objects. It's like the shock wave after an explosion. Did Koju use this kind of shock wave to destroy lasers? This kid can awaken such an amazing ability. The psychic medium Yuma found for him is pretty good. After nodding slightly, Dustless was about to speak when Koju spoke first. As long as you kowtow and apologize to my mother, I'll let bygones be bygones. Koju's face was full of magnanimity. He didn't look like he was lying. I awakened 2 curly beasts this time. Crimson is only one of them. There's still one left, and with Lion's gold, that makes 3. Do you still think you have a chance of winning? No, Dustless shook his finger. Although you have 3 familiars, I defeated Lion's gold earlier. You only have 1 familiar left. 1. Koju was stunned. He sneered. Even if you defeated one of your familiars, you still have 2. Why do you have 1 left? You haven't even graduated from primary school. Dustless didn't say anything. Instead, he smirked. He pointed at Crimson and explained. As a primogenitor, you're quite slow. You still don't seem to understand what I mean. That's because this familiar is about to be eliminated. You only have 1 curly beast left. Dow Breaker's 90 black coffin. Countless shadowless black blades attacked from all directions. These evil blades didn't have a physical form. They were like sharp gases that couldn't be blocked at all. Awoo! Sensing the danger, Crimson Double Horn howled twice, and the sharp horn on its head tapped the void again. An invisible ripple spread out again. Boom boom boom. Although the impact destroyed a lot of the black shadowless blades, there were still a lot of black lights that broke through the impact's defense and came into close contact with deep crimson of the Night Scroll. Poochie. He was instantly met with tragedy. He was brutally sliced into pieces. Chapter 1552. There was a popular saying in every world, changes in war happen in the blink of an eye. 1 second, the situation might be clear and one-sided, but the next second, the situation could be dire. Akatsuki Koju was in such a tragic situation. He was surrounded on all sides by a cliff, and the slightest mistake could cause him to fall to his death. Awoo! The cries of regret for living in this world were still echoing. The previous roar was the pride of the king of beasts, but now, it was nothing more than the moaning of a stray dog. Poochie! 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 More and more wounds appeared on the huge body of the double-horned crimson. It was unbearable to look at. The sharp edge of the black coffin had pierced through it. Its aura and magic power became dimmer and dimmer. It was a miserable ending. Bam bam bam. In the end, it was unable to withstand the continuous destruction of the black coffin, and the crimson horns deflated. After letting out an unwilling howl, it completely disappeared, turning into light that filled the sky and disappeared without a trace. Am I right? You only have 1 vassal beast left. He looked at Akatsuki Koju in amusement. Losing 2 vassal beasts in a row was a huge blow to Akatsuki Koju. Don't give up, Koju. Immortal Muyuma smiled and tried her best to maintain a look of victory. In fact, she was also thinking of retreating in her heart. She was very powerless and depressed. What Wu Chen said earlier had also dealt a blow to her. Immortal Mu-Yi was indeed a ruthless and heartless person. The possibility of abandoning Immortal Muyuma was very high. Yes, I still have 1 vassal beast left. Koju's eyes lit up as the despair in his heart was reignited. He calmly stared at Dustless and raised his right arm once more. His entire arm had turned black with dense black runes appearing on it. It seemed that he was planning to summon another familiar. What's the point? Or does he have other plans? Sighing silently, Dustless secretly scolded the one-track-minded idiot. He secretly laughed in his heart and said, could it be that this guy wants to exhaust my physical strength by taking turns to fight? That's not a bad idea, but I'm a real 10-tailed beast. I rarely feel tired, especially in battle. Idiot, why don't you just summon 3 vassal beasts to attack me together? Just as Dustless guessed, Akatsuki Koju was planning to wear down Dustless. His idea was simple. A primogenitor's mana was stronger than a dragon vein. As a human, Dustless was strong, but he definitely didn't have as much mana as Akatsuki Koju. It was normal for him to have such an idea. After all, no human in this world could compare to a primogenitor, so how could Dustless surpass a primogenitor? Akatsuki Koju's eyes. In a word, the natives of a human's eye. Even Natsuki Nangong thought the same. This was a common problem in the entire world. Bam 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 bam. In the dark night, there was a sudden burst of oppressive thunder. But of the eyes of the night, of the night sky, of the eyes of the eyes was of the night. Of the night, of the eyes of the day. Is he going to summon more vassal beasts? Koyama frowned in anticipation. If Dustless didn't insta-kill Crimson Twin Horns, it would have been a long battle between primogenitors. Itagami Island might have been wiped off the map. He's not summoning vassal beasts. His mana is unbelievably strong, but look over there, she pointed to the sky on the left. Under the night sky, she couldn't see her fingers, but she could see an unbelievably large castle. Xian Guyong's expression immediately changed, and she said with an embarrassed expression, "Is this a prison barrier?" "Finally, we can see the light of dawn," Yuma smiled. She thought of her mother, whom she had never met. She said uneasily, "Everything should be solved if we save her, right?" The prison barrier was oppressive. The sky was shrouded in black fog. It looked like a dead end. This place, Koju's expression changed slightly. He might be simple, but that didn't mean he was an idiot. Yuma had said that her mother had said that Muai had been imprisoned here because of a small mistake. But looking at the terrifying castle and hearing the sharp screams, Koju knew that this wasn't a place to imprison people with good intentions. The people gathered here must be the most vicious and evil people. It won't be easy to get in. There's a barrier outside. Koyama's eyes reflected the light of wisdom. She was calm. The barrier was impenetrable. Yuma couldn't break through it. "Leave it to me." Koyama nodded. Since he chose to work with Yuma's mother to defeat Dustless, he had to go all the way. Golden Lion, Crimson Twin Horns. 2 colorful vassal beasts jumped out of the rift. They regained their domineering appearance and roared at the sky. However, they didn't get to enjoy it for long before tragedy struck. "Scram back to where you came from." Dustless ignored the vassal beast's arrogance. He formed a seal with his hands. Immortal art, bright god gate. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Deep in the sky, the bright god gate responded to Dustless's call. They descended from the sky and bombarded the 2 vassal beasts. Roar 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 roar, the 2 vassal beasts were insta-killed again. Just a few seconds after they appeared, Koju watched in astonishment as they were smashed into smithereens by the countless red logs. Chapter 1553. Immortal Art, Bright God Gate, was able to suppress the 10-tailed beast for a short period of time, let alone a mere familiar. The instant it appeared, the 2 powerful familiars were reduced to ashes in a flash. Gulp. Xiao Guyong's eyes widened. She had seen a lot, but she was still stunned by the boundless red log. She opened her mouth wide enough to stuff a stone in. What a freak that needs to be struck by lightning. Koju's face twitched fiercely. Normal people wouldn't even dare to breathe loudly in front of a true ancestor, but this guy killed 2 familiars in an instant, and 2 of them together without a scratch. At the very least, there were no side effects. But Koju's handsome face had a smug look on it. Ao 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 ao. In another direction of the prison, there was a sudden flash of light, and the roar of a dragon shook the sky. Looking up, there was a huge dragon. Furthermore, it was an extremely rare two-headed dragon. It flapped its wings and soared high into the sky. Both of its wings emitted violent winds and tornadoes that resembled a level 10 storm swept towards the prison barrier. Caw caw caw. The two-headed dragon's momentum was astonishing, and the barrier that was as thin as a cicada's wing began to crack. So that's how it is. This kid used those two familiars to attract my attention. Dustless frowned. He recognized the two-headed dragon. It was his third familiar, the dragon snake watermark. Caw caw caw. The huge mouth bit down on the barrier. The barrier, which was already full of cracks, suddenly exploded. Although the dragon snake Mercury's ability was to devour and control dimensions, the sharp teeth of the two-headed dragon were also extremely sharp and could bite through the barrier. Looks like I've won. Koju's eyes shone. He was one step closer to saving Yuma's mother, Yuma. According to Yuma, as long as he could break through the prison's barrier, saving her mother would be a piece of cake. You awakened your third familiar, the dragon snake watermark, right? If that's the case, then it's too disappointing. Dustless was unmoved. Instead, he said calmly, you still haven't figured it out. The me in front of you is the most difficult prison in the world to break. Boom boom boom. As soon as Dustless's voice fell, the spatial barrier completely exploded. An endless aura of decay and vicissitude suddenly descended, and a desolate smell swept through the world. Goodbye. Kojo let out a few strange laughs, then he and Yuma of Immortal City disappeared in front of Dustless. This is, narrowing his eyes, Dustless frowned slightly. His gaze swept towards the prison barrier. He suddenly realized that the distance between him and Koju's group had increased by more than half. Similar to Natsuki Minamiya's spatial magic. His strength isn't much, but he runs very fast. Revealing a disdainful smile, Dustless's entire body flashed with a large amount of light. Just as she was about to turn into a burst of golden light and pursue, two insensible figures blocked her way. Get out of my way. Without even looking at the two, Dustless's tone was full of hostility. Aren't you a little too arrogant? The two figures who blocked her way were also members of the library. They were a pair of siblings under Yuma of Immortal City and had a rather resounding nickname. Hearing Dustless's arrogant tone, the two sisters were furious and glared at Dustless with hostility. It seems difficult to negotiate. That's right, brainwashed people like you only have one path from the beginning to the end. Dustless's footsteps swayed again. The silent spiritual pressure in his body suddenly erupted. Countless shadowless black blades descended and flew towards the two sisters without any trace of politeness. Tao Breakers 90, Black Coffin. The two sisters were working hard to activate the grimoire and didn't notice the approaching black light. Just as they were about to use the grimoire to attack Dustless, they were the first to suffer a tragedy. Poochie! 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 The two sisters were also heavily injured. The only difference was that Dustless didn't scare them to death this time. He only knocked them out. After that, he silently watched Koju and Yuma of Immortal City leave. Dustless put his hands in his pockets and stopped in his tracks. He didn't intend to pursue them. Are you going to let them go? Xian Gaiyong frowned. At the same time, she looked at Dustless who was slowly advancing and asked, aren't you afraid that Natsuki will be killed by that kid? Natsuki is the key to the prison. If she is killed, Yuma of Immortal City will achieve her goal and I of Immortal City will be able to break out of the prison. Do you really think I know nothing about this? Dustless glanced at Xian Gaiyong and said with disgust, you treat Natsuki like a prison. Right now, she's just a magic illusion. I want to save her from this prison. So, if the prison is broken, so be it. Even if those vicious criminals destroy Itagami Island, it has nothing to do with me. You. Hearing this, Xian Guiyong's face turned ashen. He stared at Dustless coldly. He finally understood what this guy was trying to do. He was wasting time to deliberately let Xiao Guqing break through the prison's enchantment to free the prisoners. I said before that Natsuki is the key. If you want to free the prisoners, you have to kill her. Xian Guiyong was familiar with all of this. No, she won't die. Stretching his body, Wu Qin said with a firm look, taking a step back, if she's really dead, reviving her is just a trivial matter for me. Immortal Mu Yuma's face was filled with longing. She had been waiting for this day for a long time. At that time, the shackles that bound her would disappear. You want to kill her? Hearing this, Koju took a step back. His complexion subtly changed. It was clear that he didn't want to do this. Although Koju had grudges with Dustless, he didn't want to involve others, especially since Natsuki had been good to him. He didn't want to do anything to her. This was too crazy. Koju had his own bottom line. If he knew that opening the prison's enchantment meant killing Natsuki Nangong, he absolutely wouldn't have done this. Now is not the time to be kind. Immortal Mu Yuma had a solemn expression. Success was so close, so how could she give up? Absolutely not. It was impossible and unrealistic for her to give up on her own plan. Koju, if you can't do it, then leave it to me. Immortal Mu Yuma didn't want to make things difficult for Koju. She stepped forward and looked down at Natsuki Nangong. Just as she was about to kill her, a sudden change occurred. Natsuki Nangong, who was originally sleeping, suddenly opened her eyes, revealing a pair of deep and bright eyes. Immortal Mu Ice daughter, if you give up on your unrealistic plan now, I can turn a blind eye to it. Your mother is just using you, don't make a mistake. Natsuki Nangong scolded after waking up. Although she was sad that Koju had gone astray, she saw everything that happened just now. Koju hadn't gone too far yet. It's so lively here. At the same time, a discordant voice sounded. It's you, the snake charmer. Natsuki Nangong calmly glanced at the handsome blonde youth. A few days ago, Battle King's territory paid the compensation for the damage done to Itagami Island. Vatler was released from prison and became Battle King's territory's ambassador to Itagami Island. Vatler, Koju was on guard. At first, he didn't know why Vatler approached him, but after Immortal Mu Yuma's reminder, he was filled with disgust. This guy wants to devour me and become a surpasser? Dream on. Koju sneered inwardly. If this guy tried to get close to him, he would immediately summon a familiar. Koju was a lot more confident when facing Vatler. As long as his opponent wasn't a nightmare like Dustless, he was confident. You're not welcome here, Vatler. Natsuki Nangong didn't hold back and asked him to leave. She vaguely guessed his goal and became nervous. Chapter 1555. This guy was a battle maniac. In order to find a strong person to battle, he could do any crazy thing. However, the last time he went to find trouble with Dustless, he kicked an iron plate and was beaten up. After staying in the prison for a few days, he immediately returned to his original nature. Don't say that. I'm the ambassador of Battle Monarch's domain to Itagami Island. Vatler shrugged nonchalantly with a threatening tone. When he mentioned Battle Monarch's domain, he emphasized the word Battle Monarch's domain. Everyone could hear the hidden meaning. This guy, Immortal Du's Mu Yuma frowned slightly and subconsciously looked outside. After a long time, Wuchen still hadn't caught up. This was clearly abnormal. What's your goal? Yuma asked. Don't tell me you're here to challenge someone strong. If that's the case, then there's someone called Dustless outside. He's very strong. Him. Hearing this, Vatler's mouth twitched violently a few times. He recalled being beaten up by Dustless a while ago and immediately shook his head. Although he longed to fight with experts, it didn't mean that he had a special hobby of being beaten up. I'm here, Vatler looked at Akatsuki Koju affectionately and said, I came here to confess my love to Akatsuki Koju. Pfft. Hearing this, Nangon Na-yu and Shiendu Mu-yuma both spat out saliva. Are you crazy? The one who reacted the most was Yuma. She had goosebumps when her childhood sweetheart was suddenly pulled in by someone else. Vatler sure has a unique interest. No wonder he doesn't care about the beauties on his ship. He has a thing for Koju. Dustless smiled and muttered to himself. He suddenly felt that he was right to frame Koju for being gay. The person who had come to propose had already come knocking on their door. Moreover, it was a monster who was the closest to a true ancestor. Get the hell away from me. Koju almost vomited blood. He noticed that Yuma was looking at him in a different way. This bastard is just like Dustless. No, he's even more despicable than Dustless. No matter how crazy Dustless was, he wouldn't say something so disgusting. Koju's expression was gloomy as he stared at Vatler. Vatler looked harmless, but he was much more terrifying than Dustless. Of course. I have other goals too. Vatler stared at Natsuki like a hungry wolf. He said maliciously, once the space witch falls, those evil and annoying people will break out of the prison. You bastard, you really came here for this. Natsuki became nervous after hearing this. The current situation was very unfavorable for her. She was already food on the table. Both Vatler and Yuma had their eyes on her. As for Koju, Natsuki shook her head and decided to forget about it. It was already a good ending that Koju didn't turn against her. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A purple magic formation appeared in the air and countless chains shot out. Between Vatler and Yuma, who was the bigger threat? It was meaningless. Obviously, it was Vatler. After all, he was the closest to a true ancestor. That was why Natsuki attacked him first. Immortal Capital Mu Yuma murmured, and a steel shadow appeared behind him. Don't move. Seeing Shiendu Mu Yuma about to sneak attack Nangon Natsuki, a black shadow rushed over and blocked her way. Her beautiful black hair was very eye-catching. When he appeared, Nangon Natsuki and Vatler, who were fighting, suddenly stopped. Dustless. They were shocked. Koju and Vatler had the worst expressions. After all, they had been crushed by Dustless before. It left them with a serious psychological barrier. We have a chance of winning now, Natsuki was overjoyed. Dustless's appearance was the biggest surprise for her. Even if they worked together, they might not be his match. But who would have thought that a certain person's next unexpected action caused everyone to be stunned, including Dustless. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, Yuma from Immortal City suddenly threw herself into Wu Chen's arms. Then, the shadow of the Steel Knight behind her rushed towards Wu Chen. Do you want to die together with me? Wu Chen looked at Mu Yuma, who was hugging him tightly. His eyes became colder and colder, without any emotion. He was like an iceberg, isolated from the world. Dao Breaker 88, Flying Dragon Strikes the Thief. Even though he was hugged by Yuma, Dustless shot out a huge light. Just as it was about to tear the Steel Knight apart, something happened. A golden lion descended from the sky and blocked the fatal attack. Lion's gold. Dustless was surprised. He subconsciously looked at Koju, only to find that his eyes had changed and he was charging at Natsuki. Puchi. At the same time, Dustless felt a slight pain in his abdomen. He looked at Yuma in disbelief. She was smiling sinisterly. Are you Koju? When did you switch bodies? Dustless raised his voice, which was rare. He was shocked. There was a huge bloody hole in his abdomen. If it was a normal person, they would have died long ago. However, for the ten-tailed Dustless, this was a minor injury. He could heal it with a thought. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Then, under Dustless's incredulous gaze, the Steel Knight suddenly changed its trajectory and rushed towards Nangong Natsuki with Koju. Chapter 1556. The sudden change was beyond Dustless's expectations. He stared at Yuma. He didn't know when this guy switched bodies with Koju. At this moment, Immortal City Wood Yuma was Akatsuki Koku, and Akatsuki Koku was Immortal City Wood Yuma. Dodge, Natsuki! Realizing the danger, Wuchin shouted. At the same time, his body erupted with violent chakra, and Senzuki Yamadu, who was tightly binding Wuchin, was immediately bounced away. Shinra Tensei! A fierce repulsive force erupted. Koju, who switched bodies with Yuma, was clearly weaker. He couldn't withstand the force and was mercilessly sent flying. Caw caw caw. Yuma's body smashed into the wall. Yuma, who was in Koju's body, had a change of expression and stopped running. Ah! Painful screams came from their mouths, and then their temperament changed. Koju and Yuma regained control of their bodies, and their bodies were swapped back again. So that's how it is. If one of them receives a fatal attack, their body will immediately change. This magic doesn't seem to be anything special. Vatler said disdainfully. He then stared at Koju with a strange look in his eyes. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Koju's blood isn't bad, but his blood. I reckon it will be delicious food. Vatler licked his lips in disgust and turned to look at Dustless. He saw the huge bloody hole in his abdomen. This was all thanks to Koju, who had swapped bodies with Yuma of Shendu. Dustless is rarely injured. If I let this chance go, I might never get another chance in my life. Vatler was ambitious. His ambition won over reason. Dustless was heavily injured and Vatler didn't think he had much strength left. The human body was very fragile. I've been played. Dustless murmured. He didn't expect that Koju and Immortal City's Yuma had swapped bodies unknowingly. That was why he was careless when facing Yuma. In fact, this guy was Koju. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At the same time, an unfriendly shadow swooped down with a powerful charge. It almost reached the city in an instant. Its dark eyes were full of killing intent. However, Dustless only glanced at it and raised his leg without hesitation. A dazzling light covered it as he kicked out. Lightspeed kick. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The ray of light shot straight towards the black figure, Vatler. He can still attack with such a heavy injury. How perverted is this guy's constitution? Vatler's pupils constricted as he looked at the incoming flash of light. He didn't expect Dustless to be so heaven-defying. The skull in his abdomen was perfectly fine, and he could even use such a powerful move. Boom boom boom. The speed of the light was too fast, and Vatler did not even have time to defend himself. Tragedy befell him as he was forcefully annihilated by the light beam. A huge mushroom cloud of flames rose into the air with his body as the foundation. Plop! Vatula, who had been possessed by the god of misfortune, fell into a deep pit. His whole body was once again roasted. My plans have all gone down the drain. Have all my efforts failed? Yuma's eyes dimmed. Originally, she could have used this method to catch them off guard. She could have taken care of Dustless and killed Natsuki. Who would have thought that in the end, even Vatler, an unseen ally, was heavily injured? He was lying on the ground, moaning in pain. It ends here. Heavily exhaling the foul breath that had accumulated for a long time, Dustless's body suddenly felt much better. He completely ignored the bloody hole in his body. The recovery power of Juby was extremely strong. This kind of injury would automatically recover. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Just when everyone thought it was a failure, a sharp sound broke through the air. Dustless was startled. He suddenly remembered a small character that he had overlooked. He turned his head and stared at the Iron Knight who had subdued Nangong Natsuki. Shandamu. He had forgotten about her in the fierce battle just now, so Wuchen only remembered the mastermind behind the scenes now. I should have ordered it to help Koju kill Dustless. Why did it suddenly go after Natsuki? Seeing the Steel Knight subdue Natsuki, Shandamu Yuma was overjoyed. Idiot! You still don't understand the situation. Dustless snorted. The wounds on his body slowly healed. He said in a hoarse voice, "Didn't I tell you before? You're just a chess piece, a tool. You're Shandamu Ice clone. Your body contains her power. Do I need to tell you who's controlling her? Do you understand what I mean? Could it be?" Hearing this, Immortal Capital's Yuma's face fell. She stared at the Iron Knight that grabbed Nangong Natsuki and guessed who was controlling her. "You're too careless, Natsuki." The Steel Knight spoke in human language. It sounded strange, but Natsuya knew who it was. "Immortal City would it ye, you heretical devil. You even used your own daughter. With her strength, she shouldn't be so easily subdued. Is it because Koju's familiar was injured when he attacked the prison?" Dustless narrowed his eyes. He carefully observed Natsuki's changes. Soon, he saw something unexpected. Bright red blood dripped from Natsuki's fingers. Her aura became weaker and weaker. Her face turned black. Her eyes were filled with darkness. Chapter 1557. Not only Dustless, everyone else noticed Natsuki's condition. Originally there were only a few drops of blood, but after a few seconds, more drops of blood fell. Natsuki's face became paler and paler, the dark circles under her eyes became thicker and thicker. In the end, her entire face was like ink, completely black. "You don't seem to be worried at all." After ignoring Natsuki Nangong, the Steel Knight once again muttered to itself, "I've fought with Natsuki for many years, and every time she's been able to suppress me. I'm not willing to give up, but this time I've finally succeeded in stepping on her corpse." Succeeded? Have you lost your mind after being in prison for 10 years? Hearing this, Vatler stood up with difficulty and mocked, "You still haven't realized that Natsuki Nangong has disappeared. In the end, you were too careless." As expected, the Steel Knight muttered to itself, "I was one step behind. Looks like I underestimated her. I didn't think she still had the strength to escape." However, the only person whose expression didn't change was Dustless, who only sneered at the Steel Knight. "This Xiandu Muayi is quite shrewd, she's also a scheming bitch, extremely sinister. She clearly let Natsuki go on purpose to attract the attention of the prisoners while she secretly carried out other plans. TSK. What a rare smart woman." Dustless looked at the Steel Knight mockingly without moving, as if he was an outsider. In fact, the moment Nangong Natue disappeared, he was acutely aware of it. He also discovered that Immortal Wudiyi was openly stealing Nangong Natue's memories. Then, the Steel Knight's line of sight finally landed on Dustless's head. His entire body exuded a gloomy, cold aura as he raised his sword again. Shio. It launched a fatal sneak attack, turning into a ray of cold light as it pounced. Cough. Reckless thing. Vatler sneered. He dryly laughed at Xiandu Mu Ye's overestimation of her abilities, calling her an idiot in his mind. For a witch like you to challenge a demon king, even 100 heads wouldn't be enough. Kill him. Koju was also excited. If possible, he would be more than happy to see Dustless suffer. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Just as the Steel Knight was about to cleave Dustless apart, an unexpected scene happened. It suddenly changed its trajectory and pounced at the two figures on Dustless's left. Poochie. Koju almost coughed up blood after seeing this. He was shocked to find that Ice's target was him and Yuma. Mother, why is this happening? Xiandumu Yuma asked in disbelief. That soul-stirring murderous aura was obviously not faked. She had gone through untold hardships to save Xiandumu Aoyi, but she did not expect that this so-called mother would be so vicious that she wanted to kill her in the end. Just like that guy said, there is only one Xiandumu Aoyi in this world. And you, Xiandumu Yuma, are just a tool that has not completed my goal, so, please disappear. The Knight of Steel spoke indifferently. He swung his sword, and when he got close to Koju, he suddenly swung it at Yuma, who was beside him. Wanxiang Heaven's Pole. The blade fell, and just as it was about to kill Yuma, a powerful gravitational force came from behind, stopping the Steel Knight from moving. Instead, it flew toward Dustless. You seem to have forgotten your roots. Do you think you can be free after escaping the prison barrier? Maybe, but your freedom is only limited to the prison barrier. Blue light appeared on his fingertips, and the void twisted violently. Dustless aimed at the Steel Knight and flicked out an energy ball the size of a luminous pearl. Wang Su's flash. Without any external interference, the energy ball hit the Steel Knight without a doubt. It shattered into pieces and evaporated without leaving a trace. Boom! 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 The seemingly harmless energy ball exploded with a loud bang, revealing an unprecedented horror. The pitch-black night sky was simply torn apart, and the blue light exploded, occupying the entire horizon. The sky at the center of the explosion caved in, emitting an absolute impact, raising the entire prison enchantment to the ground in one fell swoop. So strong. Koju and the others stared blankly at the caved-in sky. He was clearly a human, but the strength he displayed was something even a true ancestor could not compare to. The huge prison barrier complex disappeared into thin air. Crack! 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 The void suddenly exploded, and countless black figures poked their heads out. Looking carefully, these people had ferocious looks, and were all extremely vicious villains. Oh! I really have to thank you. A melodious voice resounded through the sky. Wuchen looked over and saw a stunning woman in a kimono who looked almost the same as immortal Muyuma, but her temperament was obviously different. Compared with the immature immortal Muyuma, this person was like a deadly poison, exuding charm all over her body. She was Yuma's mother, Yuma I. If you hadn't launched such a powerful attack and flattened the prison barrier, many of the prisoners would have been trapped inside. Everyone might have to thank you. Yuma I teased, and at the same time, countless prisoners laughed. No, you don't have to thank me. Dustless shook his finger, and a cold light gathered on his face. He sneered. I let you out, just to annihilate all of you. Please don't thank me. Chapter 1558. Dustless was afraid that his lifespan would be shortened if a bunch of people he was about to kill thanked him. This guy is very strong. Immortal Capital would if ye didn't blink, her eyes as calm as water. Only when Dustless's body erupted with golden light did she realize the danger. What's that? A wave of energy suddenly appeared in the silent sky, forcing everyone to retreat. Then, a holy yet extremely evil golden light covered Dustless's body. A solid giant of energy slowly took shape. The aura this monster exuded was extremely contradictory. It was majestic yet holy, yet filled with an extremely evil aura. Compared to this giant, demons were like kind-hearted children. Caw caw caw. Inside the monster's lungs, the sound of bones assembling could be heard. The messy combination of bones and tendons was so numerous that it was hard to tell them apart. Even though it was a mess, it gave off a sense of order and regularity. A majestic giant took shape. It was several meters tall, about the same size as a true ancestor's familiar, but the pressure it exuded was far greater. Not only was it glowing, but it was also wearing a majestic and sinister helmet. Just a glance from it made people feel as if they were sitting on pins and needles. The mature Kansusanu is enough to deal with you, but the complete Kansusanu, forget it. If I don't control it well, I'll be doomed eternally. Maybe this island will collapse in a few hits. Dustless muttered to himself as he looked at the numerous prisoners. There are so many of you. Might as well use that to deal with you all in one go. Dustless willed the mature golden Kansusanu to change. The sword of light in its hand disappeared, then turned into a dazzling beam of light that shot into the sky. Not good. For some reason, Immortal Mu-Ah-Yi had a bad feeling as she looked at the colossus in the air. She looked around and saw that it was not just her. The prisoners were already in a mess. Some of them who had sensed the danger were already scrambling to leave. Let's see what you can do. Thinking of her own strength, Immortal City Mu-Ah-Yi calmed down. Although her spatial magic wasn't as wondrous as Nangong Natsuki's, at least escaping wasn't a problem for her. Let you out of prison. That's indeed the case, but wouldn't it be better to release all of you at once and finish you off in one move? Dustless in the void spoke in human language, but it was colder than ice. The prisoners on the ground were filled with uneasiness. Ao ao ao. The mature body Kansusanu let out a strange moan. Immediately after, everyone noticed that Kansusanu's thick golden arms suddenly crossed. In the palms of both hands, a blinding light suddenly flashed, causing people to be unable to open their eyes. The scorching light was too damaging to the eyes, and looking at it for a few seconds could cause blindness. Kansusanu, looking down coldly at the terrified prisoners, the light that filled the sky poured down. Yasukani no Magatama. The power of Yasukani no Magatama was already unimaginable, and its area of effect was ridiculously large. Now that it was combined with Kansusanu, its power increased exponentially, and so did its area of effect. Shio shio shio. The dazzling light bullets were like a hot knife through butter. They came and went without a trace. Although some of the fugitives reacted immediately, the speed of the light was too fast. Some of the prisoners didn't even have the chance to use their skills to resist before they were mercilessly torn apart. Puchi! 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 Their bodies were like funnels, and they were all shattered by the light bullets. All of them were pierced through by Kansusanu, Yasukani no Magatama. Of course, there were exceptions to everything. Some of the lucky ones, or those who sensed the danger in advance, managed to escape. For example, the cunning immortal city Mu-Ah-Yi, she used her spatial magic to escape. Even so, those who managed to escape were few and far between. At least 95 out of 100 people were instantly killed, and those who managed to escape were riddled with holes. It's almost over, it's time to look for Natsuki. Landing on the ground, Dustless walked away, ignoring Yuma who was in a daze. Passing by her, Dustless activated his observation hockey, and the Tensegan's exaggerated long-range tracking ability, carefully searching for traces of Natsuki Nangong. Natsuki, who has lost her memory, may be in the sea of people. Stop. Just as Dustless turned to leave, Immortal Capital's Mu Yuma stopped him. You are free. Leaving such a sentence, Dustless stopped and moved again. However, Yuma didn't seem to appreciate it. She instantly flashed in front of Dustless. I want to join forces with you to deal with Yuma. The girl's eyes showed a firm light. Even though most of the prisoners inside the barrier were eliminated, there were still some who managed to slip through the net. Quite a number of prisoners were forced to wander the streets. Those who could leave Itagami Island tried their best to leave, and those who couldn't were still searching for Natsuki Nangong. Based on the information they got from Yoko, Natsuki Nangong was still alive. Everyone started hunting him down. The prisoners were all attracted by Natsuki Nangong. As for Immortal City Muayi, he also silently arrived at Rainbow Sea Academy. Looking at the school of the past that had changed, Immortal City Muayi couldn't help but feel emotional. All of this will end here. Yuma's calm crystal eyes emitted a ferocious light, and the silent magical power in her body burst out, and the turbulent light slowly overflowed. On the other side, Koju was extremely depressed. When Dustless was about to kill all of them, Vatler, who once confessed to him, was the first to carry him on his back and hurriedly ran away, even leaving Yuma behind. This guy wants to devour me. Thinking of his great attraction to Vatler, Koju was full of uneasiness. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.